Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, November 30th, 2018. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. It's Casual Friday, folks. I am wearing my soft-collared shirt, and we'll be inviting on the program Ben Dixon from the Benjamin Dixon Show. Also on the program today, Matthew Film Guy from a learning annex, JCC, in Long Island City. Also on the program today, in the wake of the Cohen plea deal, Trump reminds people it's very good it's very cool and legal to do business with the Russians, and presumably so to giving Putin a $50 million penthouse apartment. Also on the program today, G20 kicks off in Argentina. The world leaders are snickering at Trump. And the racist judicial nominee from North Carolina going down. Elections may actually have consequences. Meanwhile, CNN fires Mark Lamont Hill because of the consequence of advocating for Palestinian rights. And 500 million user accounts at Marriott Starwood hotels have been breached over the course of 4 years, so they're on it.
To help with connectivity.
Meanwhile, Joe Crowley's role revealed in the Hakeem Jeffries win. Also on the program, congressional Democrats to release H.R. 1, the first bill of the new Democratic caucus. Paul Ryan suspects something weird. It's red flaggy all over the place in California, he says. Totally red flaggy. And migrants stage a hunger strike at the Mexican border. Meanwhile, Fed explains millennials spending. Laura Loomer seems to be still chained to half a door.
Solidarity.
And the plans to maintain, or I should say build on the Yemen resolution in the Senate yesterday. And will Chuck Schumer stop Joe Manchin from being the committee chair of the Energy and Commerce Committee?
What do you think? Oh, hold on. The Baileys are on the line. Not only does Joe Manchin get the committee chair, he gets the keys to my apartment.
I was going to say, yeah, I have a counter offer for you. You're the committee chair of two committees. That one, and we'll also put you on the whatever one you want.
Date night with my wife every other week. Take Mrs. Schumer out for Chinese.
All this and more, ladies and gentlemen, on today's Majority Report. We've got a lot of stuff for you today. Later in the fun half, I think we will get to the first shots fired in the war on Christmas, which will provide us an excuse to recount my contribution to the war on Christmas that is now as old as the Christmas tradition, almost. We will get to that later in the program. But first, ladies and gentlemen, as I remind you that this program relies on your support, You can become a member of the Majority Report today by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. Want to read a little bit of email that we got. Well, we got this on my birthday, which I thought was apropos. As you know, last year on my birthday, the Mike Cernovich started his campaign to get me fired from MSNBC. This year on my birthday, and I don't know if it was a coincidence or what, but we got an email, and the email is it's quite interesting. We have decided to do it as a little playlet. We thought it would be more apropos. The email is from a doctor. Now, we do not have a doctor in the building, so instead, playing the role of this conservative doctor will be the character right-wing Nelson Mandela. And I will be...
Hello, Samantha.
Yes, thank you for joining us. I will be playing the role of myself, who goes through the emails, and particularly when I see a hate email, I respond very quickly. So...
the only thing that relieves your sciatica.
That's right, it's true. There you go. What a coincidence. Playing a doctor already providing.
Yes. See how that works?
Yes. Okay. So if we could now, we take you to our email inbox at majorityreporters@gmail.com, where this email came in.
So Seder says that Trump supporters should kill themselves. Really? Seder, you should kill yourself, you fascist pig. You are disgustingly stupid. Dr. Charlotte.
That's right. And we've gotten rid of this second name, obviously, to protect the non-innocent. I responded, link, please. Not sure what you're referring to. And Dr. Charlotte came back with this quote.
MSNBC host says Republicans need to kill themselves,
etc. And she and I was like, what's going on here? I don't recall I said that, but it seems very similar to what happened a year earlier when Mike Cernovich, but in fact, so she wrote that, and I with a link to the American Journal Review, which also got this from the Washington Free Beacon. No, go to the American Journal Review, which is the link I sent you, and it indeed says MSNBC host says Republicans need to kill themselves. Okay, we'll just drag that in, and if you can scroll down. You got to keep going.
This is exactly as it took place. And then he scrolled down, and then he
there
was
it
on the
is.
verge of
MSNBC host says Republicans need to kill themselves in all caps. Quote, suicide may be the only option for these people. He wasn't kidding, it says. And so and there's a face, I look maniacal in that picture. And so let's go to the video if we could. And here it is. This is at Washington Free Beacon. You have the video set up, right? Queued up? Okay.
So I think the Himes calculation is correct, right? They will abandon him if and when it's political peril. The question is, at what point that would be the case?
Yeah.
I mean, again, they're underwater.
Right. But you know, when you look at the map, right, you know, look at where Trump went into those red states and he helped.
Right.
The problem is that the polarization is such that suicide may be the only option.
Okay, well, now the problem is with this clip is that just before that, Chris Hayes had said they can't stick with Donald Trump, speaking of the Senate and House Republicans, because that would be suicide. And so I responded, suicide may be the only option. And I wrote back to the doctor, listen to the video. Your news sources are lying to you. The question was posed, is supporting Trump suicidal for elected Republicans? And I sent that off, and she said,
Thank you for the clarification.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Another one of my birthdays go by, and I remain unscathed.
That is so awesome to come out swinging like that, though, and then
Yep.
just get a correct, and you just fast on the turnaround. So, oh, my bad.
Hey,
Right.
that's how the marketplace of ideas should work.
That's
I
right.
think.
You fascist pig. Oh, thank you for the clarification. Now, where do right-wingers get this type of mentality? I will say this: good for her for actually, coming back and looking at the video and looking at the context and appreciating the clarification. Because there are some right-wing leaders who will never ever learn. Let us go to Nashville, Tennessee, where Steve Ducey has put on the world's most obnoxious sport coat to go along with Kid Rock's outfit. Now, I don't know why the two of them are in Nashville. Maybe Kid Rock is getting drunk. Drunk. Who knows? But he's on Fox and Friends because of all the Kid Rock fans who tune into that show. And here's what Kid Rock has: a simple plea for all of us to just get a little more civil.
You know, the division in the country right now, that it's so hard for people just to get past that we can disagree and still be cordial with one another, and just talk about things without going for each other's throats and protesting everything. And God forbid you say something a little bit wrong, you're racist, homophobic, Islamophobic, this, that, and the other. People need to calm down, get a little less politically correct. And I would say, love everybody except, I'd say, screw that Joey Behar bitch. Everybody.
That's the only time they applaud. That's the only time all those people.
I mean, lady.
That's the only time.
I mean, lady.
Yeah.
Listen, she's just got a different point of view than you do.
Exactly. Hey, maybe we'll go on and I'll hash it out with her. We'll talk about it. But anyway, exactly. Aside from joking, which I was, is just go out and hash it out with people and have your thoughts and ideas, but be able to still go have a beer with somebody and just say, hey,
come
we all
on,
love
bitch,
this
let's
country
have beer.
and, let's have different ideas, but try to move
Hey,
forward
you
and be
horrible
more
bitch,
together
let's
and
have
realize
beer.
at the end of the day we're all Americans.
We're all
We
Americans,
are
except for
all
Joy
Americans.
Behar, who's Jewish.
You know what Ducey means in Dutch?
Now, Joey Behar, it turns out, is Italian, so he's not. There's nothing loaded about his comments.
Well, look,
there.
let me say this, and obviously it can't be racist because I'm saying it, but one word, more. Think about it.
Love how that's the only thing that the crowd erupts in applauding. We got to be friendly with people. We got to, take them out and this and that. And of course, she's a bitch.
Well, it's 100% more honest than when they usually say that stuff.
We
right?
can all get
Yeah.
along. We should all have beers. We should all talk to each other, except for that bitch, Whoopi.
Like if
Let me finish my thought, Ducey, you weak. Ducey is...
This is them just continuing.
Yeah,
to-
let's just hear them continue.
Ducey means awkward cock in Flemish.
Steve, I know where I'm going in Nashville. I'm going right there. That place looks fantastic. It's a party at 7:36 in the morning there, local time. I could see those two on Fox Nation every day. I mean, I could see
They're
might
very
have to bleep
entertaining.
out certain things.
But we do need to apologize. We don't feel that way about Joy Behar, so that's we don't condone that language.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I'm going to voice bomb that segment. Yes, we do. Joey Behar's a bitch. Trump rules. America first.
Unbelievable.
MAGA.
I like how they apologize
Suck it.
afterwards. Like, we had no idea. Kid Rock was such a classy act. We had no idea he would say something like that.
After Kilman's like, I want to fuck. I want to go there.
Yeah, no, that was great. I was like, we'd like to apologize. Kilby's like, that guy's so cool. He's more awesome than the professors who ghostwrite my books.
Wait, can I go to Nashville next time?
Can I go next time? I wouldn't interrupt him like Ducey. I feel like, yeah,
Ducey
he
is
is
a real
bitch.
wimp. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, head back. We'll be back in a moment with Ben Dixon. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the program Ben Dixon, a host and proprietor of the Benjamin Dixon Show, and now the also, I should say, the I guess the co-proprietor, co-founder of the North Star, which you can get more information at buildingthenorthstar.com. And wow, man, you've already got over 5,000 members have joined. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, actually, we're closer to 8,000 today. It is
wow.
It's out of control. A lot of people are supporting the project, what we're trying to do. Of course, Sean King, it's kind of weird. So the North Star has already been founded, but we're the re-founders. So
right, okay.
I'm calling ourselves like the re-co-founders. So Sean King is my re-co-founder. And of course, he has a huge audience of people who want exactly what we're proposing. So that's, it's a great model. And now we're in the stage of creating content.
That's great. And so when does it actually launch? Do you know?
So we're going to have we're launching in stages. We're only building what our audience helps us to be able to afford to build, right? We're kind of, it's grassroots media still. And so we're launching the podcast version. We owe the audience a full line of content, 4 podcasts that we're going to try to release before the New Year's. The first one is going to come out in the next 2 weeks, the first series. And so we have a lot of great conversations. Patrice Cullors of Black Lives Matter, she's going to join us, and she's going to co-host one of our flagship podcasts. We have a lot of other great people we have lined up. And then we have some voices that you haven't heard yet that are creating amazing content to be a part of this network. So that portion is going to start rolling out before the new year. The video portion, if we hit 10,000 members, we're going to launch the daily news broadcast. And I'm actually at a facility, which is why, I couldn't stay as long as I normally love to stay with you. But we're looking at the facilities here in Atlanta to build the next studio.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, folks can get more information and become a member at buildingthenorthstar.com. Very exciting. All right. So, Ben, this week, crazy week, starting with a climate change report that was put out by the Trump administration, congressionally mandated. Trump said it was fine, but he didn't believe any of it. Right. Leading into Trump obviously is head to the G20. They just signed and have prepared the new NAFTA for fast track. It's not terribly different than the old NAFTA in many respects. Some help theoretically for auto workers, but 15,000 just got laid off or are about to be laid off by GM. So I'm not sure how helpful that's actually going to be. Some of the biggest news has been what's happening with the Mueller investigation. This thing the pace seems to be picking up, and the narrowing of it seems to be picking up. But Paul Manafort sort of left the building, but it wasn't quite clear to me that Robert Mueller wasn't anticipating something like this. Give me your sense of what you've seen this week in the Mueller front.
Yeah, so this week it seems like everything is accelerating. And the closeness and the proximity to Donald Trump, the walls are closing in on him clearly. The Michael Cohen guilty plea, the implication of it, and just the fact that they have corroborating emails and other people who are going to testify, verifying the account, and even that I think Rudy Giuliani came out and said that the president confirmed his testimony confirmed some of what Cohen or what we've been told about Cohen. It clearly paints a picture of a president who misled the people while he was running for president, carrying out his business activities with Russia in terms of the opportunity to open up in a luxury hotel there, and telling the American people simultaneously that he's not doing it and he doesn't have any dealings with Russia. I'm not one to regularly like to agree with Alan Dershowitz, but I think he summarized it pretty succinctly. This is clearly reason for people not to vote for Donald Trump. But is it to the point of he's in legal peril? That we're still, I think that remains to be seen. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think that there's anything from what we heard from Cohen that puts him in legal jeopardy, but we don't know what he's what Trump has testified. So on some level, it could be a perjury trap in some respects, but it is clear that Mueller seems to be sort of mopping up the ends. And the Mueller, the Manafort thing, it's interesting that it all came down this week, right after Donald Trump had written his written testimony. My sense is like we're seeing shadows of shadows. Do you know what I mean? Like there's just stuff going on that we just don't know, and everything that we're seeing is almost like it's like if you're outlining, you have like a little picture and you just keep outlining it and outlining it and outlining it. And by the time you get to that like 20th Cohen-centric outline, it doesn't have the same shape as what's really going on in the middle. And I get that feeling, but I get the feeling that Mueller's in charge of this. Like he's setting the pace in a way that I don't know that we can even really tell in some respects.
I think he's really, in a way, swinging his weight around a little bit with this week in particular. But I like that you pointed out the perjury trap, because I think the timing of this really tells the story of Mueller giving the president the opportunity to either tell the truth or not, right? So all of this came out after the president gave his written testimony to Mueller. And so, we really do have to question how effective were his lawyers in making him tell the truth? Because we know the president left his own devices is pretty much incapable of telling the truth. So this is really going to be a testimony of how good his lawyers were before they made those presentations, gave those testimonies rather to Mueller. But the timing of it and him swinging his weight and really kind of showing the president that he's not in charge of this ship. I think that's really a statement that whether or not he tried to make it, that's the statement that Mueller made this week.
I also wonder, like we hear so much about Trump. What we're not hearing is about Donald Jr. We're not hearing about Ivanka. And we know that they haven't come in front of Mueller. And we know that at least it was reported that Jr. thought he was going to get indicted. There was saying that several weeks ago. I can't help but think that the stuff that we're hearing about, right, which is not coming from Mueller's investigation, all the stuff that we're hearing about is coming either from court filings or from defense attorneys who are looking to help out their specific clients. And I can't help but think that, like, the first thing that's out of nowhere is going to come out of is an indictment against one of the children. And just because we're not hearing anything about them. And we know that at the very least, Donald Trump Jr. was intimately involved. He was physically in all of these sort of instances that seem a little dubious.
Right. The meeting with Vesniskaya in Trump Tower, the email chain that he released himself that he thought exonerated him, which actually implicated him even more. The level of intelligence that he does not operate with suggests that he's in trouble.
Yes, I would agree. And here's a question I will pose to you that was posed to me earlier in the week. At what point do you think? I mean, we're seeing like polling with Trump is starting to drop. Part of that, I think, might have been a drop amongst Republicans. Part of that may be a function of what kind of whooping the Republicans took in the midterms. Part of it may be a function of what has come out with Mueller recently. At what point do you think Republicans, or is there a point where Republicans basically cut him loose? I mean, the one thing that we saw this week that had any meaning, and I've been reminded that a broken clock is right twice a day. Jeff Flake actually came through. It looks like this guy from North Carolina, who's been an expert in voter suppression in North Carolina, his judicial nomination is dead because Tim Scott and Jeff Flake basically have said we're not going to vote for him on the floor.
So that just happened, because I thought he flipped on that this morning.
What?
Jeff. Yeah, I think this morning he decided to go ahead and give him the vote. But again, I mean, it's also fluid. It could have changed again. You know, Jeff Flake has, this is my worst dad joke ever. Jeff Flake is so flaky, you just don't know where he's going to be at any time of the day. I apologize for the dad joke.
No, that's all right. But I didn't. Is anybody else seeing that? Can you guys? Because the last I had heard, but I've been, sort of pulled. I've been in. The last I saw was that Flake was not going to vote for him because he said he's not going to vote for any judicial nominees that until there's protection from Mueller. Are you guys seeing anything, Brendan? We haven't seen any updates as of yet.
And it was an article that I saw the headline, so
Well, I guess we'll see. Let me see if I'm okay. No, I don't see anything new about Flake, but
to answer your other question about when will they ditch him, honestly, that's still a function of how strong his, where his bottom is. The bottom for Trump has always been somewhere around 36, 34%. And those are people, I mean, those people are pretty committed to Donald Trump. If he starts losing there, then the Republicans have an opportunity to ditch him. But I just don't know how much of this is going to affect his core base.
None of it. That's my guess. None of it. He's never going to lose that 36%, whatever that floor is. And the problem the Republicans have is that increasingly those 36 are represented in their politics by Republican senators and Republican congresspeople. I mean, that's why those people showed up at work, basically, or coming in January, because they're in very red places, right? Like North Dakota. Was it Kramer who's coming in? He's never going to abandon Donald Trump. That's why he's there. In these districts where the Republicans won, for the most part, they're never going to abandon Donald Trump because his people are their people, seems to me.
That's their meal ticket, right? I mean, if you look at the race, Trump said one thing that was pretty accurate. He said that the people who embraced him won. The more people embrace Donald Trump, the better they perform in those particular districts that are blood red. So, the Republicans do have a model problem. Like, how do they model a win outside of Donald Trump? Good luck. We'll see.
Right. I agree with that. All right. Now let's turn to for a moment to the Democrats, and we should just say, Tim Scott. I mean, Jeff Flake, obviously, he's on his way out. He made one promise, assuming that he kept it, which is, a big assumption. Assuming he kept it. Tim Scott, obviously, it was a little bit harder for him, being the only African-American senator in the Republican caucus, to basically say, I don't care about a guy whose entire career seems to have been built upon voter suppression, that any other Supreme Court, that, if the DOJ was still doing preclearance, would not have allowed at this point.
Right. It's a small win, so I'm not going to knock Tim Scott completely, but he's wrong on so many other issues that, this is just a broken clock again.
But do you think that also, like, a weakened Donald Trump also has something to do with this? I mean, a slightly weakened Donald Trump. I mean, really at the edges.
Well, possibly. I mean, you have to take that in consideration. But then you also have to ask yourself, at what point do you have any soul left? Do you have anything left in you, Tim Scott, that you would fight for? Are you going to bend over for someone who clearly has animosity towards minorities and their capacity to vote? Are you just going to prostrate yourself for them? And so it could be a function of Tim Scott having a backbone finally on something. But, which one is greater? I don't know.
All right, so let's turn to the Democrats in the House and the Senate. Barbara Lee lost, and there was a story for her the one position in the House leadership that was sort of was in contention. This was, I think, Joe Crowley's previous position. Barbara Lee was, I don't know at what point Hakeem Jeffries jumped into that race, but Joe Crowley, the guy who because he lost his primary to AOC, was vacating, he apparently, according to a piece in The Intercept, went around, told a bunch of Democrats that Barbara Lee had sent a check to AOC in the primary, right? So the implication being this person in the who wants to be in the leadership was gunning for Democrats, incumbent Democrats. Now, there's nothing right or wrong. There's no rule against that, and I am obviously in favor of all primaries. But from the perspective of some of these House members, they're like, I don't want to put someone into leadership who is willing to go after someone in leadership, in a primary, right? Like if someone's willing to do that, then she's out of control. Well, it turns out she sent the check after the primary when anybody from Steny Hoyer to, across the board sent checks to AOC.
Right.
Just as a way of saying, welcome on board, you won the primary. Your take on that?
So that's a level of pettiness and entrenched politics that I'm glad he's gone.
Right.
Good. Like this is perfectly this is a perfect example of why. Even though he was seen as progressive by some for whatever reason, this is a perfect example of why we don't need that style of politics there. Now, for the people who remain on the Hill, the Jeffries, the people who voted against Barbara Lee, you know what? I mean, I want to make this statement first. Their vote is their prerogative. We try to influence it as much as we can, but they're not bound to. They're free agents, right? I want to say that because I think sometimes we take that out of the equation. That's always a part of the calculus. But they have a bigger problem on their head. They may have stopped Barbara Lee, but they're not stopping Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Right.
And I don't think that they're going to stop Barbara Lee. I actually think this is going to empower her a little bit more in terms of the grassroots support from the people. So they thought they did something, but in actuality, I think this is going to backfire on them in the long run, which specifically to say all of the leadership is in peril. They may have preserved or had some revenge because of his position, Crowley's position, but now all of the leadership is in peril, and for good cause. Like we're not just switching out corporate Democrats. We're talking about some truly progressive people who have gone up and have significant influence and power that they have to be held, that they have to take into account.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that Hakeem Jeffries now has a bunch new set of resources. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? Is we're talking about just, resources, ability to sway votes. And he is, to put it mildly, less than optimal in terms of where he is politically. This is a guy who's like a big charter school supporter, certainly within the context of New York State. He is a guy who takes a lot of big PAC money. He's a Wall Street guy.
Definitely corporate Tim.
Definitely. Yeah. And he is as situated to be the speaker as anybody who is under the age of 60, right? And that's just about. There's nobody else. There's I mean, maybe 70, under the age of 70 in the House. I mean, Steny Hoyer and Clyburn and Nancy Pelosi, all north of 70. And so it's not just a question of age in terms of sensibility. Barbara Lee was over the age of 70, I believe, or maybe just. But there's a sensibility that she has that's different, but the age is important insofar as like we know there's going to be a leadership change relatively soon. Yeah. And who's going to fill that are people who are, who have the inside track. And that may be Hakeem Jeffries now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that analysis. I think you make a great point, but I can't discount the populist uprising that's happening. And I don't want to count it, but I can't discount it. I think that with the momentum that AOC seems to be able to maintain so far, let's see when January actually gets here and she actually starts serving, and the energy around that groundswell, I think that can carry over into the 2020 election and send even more progressive voices. There's a possibility. I just want to say we're not out. You know, he won that position. He is in a good position to become the speaker if that's what he wanted to pursue. But there's still a good chance that we can have a more progressive future if we continue to model after what AOC has done and others have done in this last election cycle.
I mean, he only won by 10 votes. Now, so it was 123 to 113. There's, I don't know, I guess maybe 3 or 4 more congresspeople coming in.
And this is going to play well, right? When you realize that they got it wrong, that this check was donated after the fact, right? And that this was a manipulative tactic by Crowley. That's not going to play well for Jeffries over the next 2 years. People are going to remember. I
would think, right? I mean, that's what I didn't necessarily see much of that in this story, that you know, by any congresspeople going like, hey, wait a second, we just got hoodwinked. I got to imagine, right, that there's at least 10 people out there going like, hey, man, I got screwed over. I had my colleague lied to me. And I find it hard to believe that Hakeem Jeffries didn't know about it. And if he's going to lie in this context, how can I trust him in another one?
Exactly. That's a critical thing right there. And you know who can help with that? Us, people like us, people in media, people on social media. Like this is something that we can remind people of on a regular basis. This is not something to let them forget. You know, they wanted to be petty and vindictive and they were wrong about it. So let's return in favor because this actually does have a lot to do with the future of the leadership of the Democratic Party.
Right. And can folks do me a favor here? Don't say this election was rigged. Don't say it was stolen. It was the guy running or, you know, someone supporting the guy running basically told a lie in support of his own candidate. And that's not rigging. That's not a stolen election. That's an election, and the people who voted for Jeffries, we can encourage them to see the person they voted for as distrustful. But if you oversell this stuff as being rigged and whatnot, people are just going to stop listening to you.
Sam, that's a perfect dovetail for this conversation because that's why I put that at the beginning. People have autonomy, man. They you know, when you say it's rigged, you strip away someone's individual autonomy to make their own conscious decision. These people made their conscious decision, but now they made their conscious decision based on a lie. So it's far more powerful to say that you've been lied to than to say, oh, this is rigged and this is just corporate Dem selling out. That line is not going to get us anywhere. But if you remind them that their autonomy was robbed because they were lied to, that's an entirely different argument that sticks and resonates.
Yeah, and it's just it's infuriating. I mean, I've said this before. I think it's the same thing with when it came to the Sanders primary with Clinton, and I don't know where else I've seen that frame, but it's a stupid frame, and it's not helpful because people, you can't convince anybody of something when you go and oversell it in that way.
Yeah. And it's an irritating frame because you in that sentence, you're saying that this person, that these people who make these decisions have no capacity to make some decisions on their own. They're just a part of a machine that was rigged against X, Y, and Z. And in this case, you know what? They made their decision on the best information that they had at the time. It just turns out that they had been lied to. And that's the frame. I think that's a winning frame to keep reminding people as Jeffries tries to move up in the ranks that his presence there is based on a lie.
Yep.
And that I think can stick over the next 2 years.
Let's just talk briefly about what's going on in the Senate, too, because you know,
Chuck.
Yeah, I mean, geez. And I don't know if this is part. I know in the House there has been talk, and we spoke to David Dayen earlier. Was it this week? Maybe it was I think it was this week, about on Monday, about the Progressive Caucus in the House. Went to Pelosi at the beginning of the week. She's still involved in a fairly robust leadership fight, right? She seems to have made some type of peace with those no labels folks, but there's still people who voted against her within the caucus. And my understanding is that of the 20 some odd people who voted against her in the caucus, or 30 some odd people who voted against her in the caucus, she released them to vote against her in the caucus because they're going to vote for her on the floor. It's easier for these people who said, like, I'm not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi to be speaker until my option is her or Jim Jordan as speaker.
Right.
And that's what, you know, that's what I think is happening there. But the Progressive Caucus got the ability to put 40% of its members, or I should say 40% of each major committee, to be members of the Progressive Caucus. And they're trying to convince their membership to leave maybe their seniority in one committee to go on one of these more key committees like Finance and Ways and Means and Appropriations, and two others. One's the Intelligence Committee. I can't remember the fourth. Maybe it's Energy and Commerce. In the Senate, there's a similar dynamic going on with Chuck Schumer, Joe Manchin, and Joe Manchin is sort of seems to be poised on that committee to have the seniority to step in and become the minority leader in the Senate of that of the Energy Committee. And of course, he's from a coal state. He's going to get a lot of coal money. And really, it's up to sort of Chuck Schumer to sort of block him from doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing this conversation as two monsters, and just let them fight and destroy each other, because Chuck Schumer is doing with trying to offer some funding for the wall. And then now he may play the role as a hero against Joe Manchin, who to me is just as disgusting. I honestly don't have a positive thing to say about either one of them, so I'll just let them destroy each other. It'd be good for me.
Yeah, but the problem is that they could also not destroy each other, and we get the worst of both worlds, where Chuck Schumer is like, sure, I mean, have a seat.
You know, thanks for sobering me up really quick, because that's probably what's going to happen, right? I mean, Chuck Schumer is how do we get stuck with Chuck Schumer? This is the biggest question of all. And how do we make a path to getting rid of him and somebody, particularly Joe Manchin? Like, the first person that has to go is Joe Manchin. But Chuck Schumer, I got nothing.
Yeah, I don't mind Chuck Schumer in the Senate per se. I mean, I would rather him not be. But the real problem, it seems to me, when it comes to Chuck Schumer, is that he's not just one vote. It's that he's the leader. And my understanding is just that it was both Durbin and he were positioned when Reid left to become the Senate, I think at that time, minority leader. And just that Durbin just did not have the sort of killer instinct to be that guy. And Chuck Schumer took it, because Chuck Schumer, the one thing that Chuck Schumer seems to be very adept at is getting Chuck Schumer into where he wants to get Chuck Schumer into.
But then it's an amazing juxtaposition of skill sets, right? Because then he just prostrates himself in front of Donald Trump and offers him this money to build this monument to white supremacy. So he has the ability to get his own power, but he is not wielding that to the benefit of anyone else, anyone that has a hint of progressivism in their blood. So, you know, I'm at a loss. I don't really see the path forward in making changes in the Senate the way that we see the potential for changes in the House.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is either, but I guess we'll have more time. I'm not sure. Maybe over the course of a presidential campaign. Maybe one member of the Senate jumps into the presidential campaign, gets out relatively early, but has increased their stature in a way that maybe might be helpful. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if we have someone to the left of Chuck Schumer in the presidency, you know, Chuck Schumer, who is extremely transactional, it seems to me, can be steered in a better direction. I don't know, but
that right there is having somebody in the White House who's to the further left than Chuck Schumer, because otherwise we're stuck with a Chuck Schumer who rewards Chuck Schumer.
Benjamin Dixon Show, buildingthenorthstar.com. Thanks so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, folks, going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be talking to Matthew Film Guy. You know what? I got to update this. JustCoffee.coop. Usually we give a 10% coupon, which gets you 10% off. You can use the coupon code majority. Until I think it's the next two weeks at JustCoffee.coop, it's 30% off. You don't need a coupon code. 30% off. Jamie is literally making a note to herself right now. This is a great deal. Free shipping still. You can get a 5-pound bag of coffee, 30% off. If you're one of those people who goes to the supermarket and you don't buy like the ground, like, I don't know, you don't buy, Maxwell House anymore, but you actually go and get decent coffee, good coffee in beans, in a bag, you should check. Now is your time to check out Just Coffee. They do this, I think, only twice a year, and this time it's shorter. JustCoffee.coop. You can get the Majority Report blend, which is Brendan's favorite. I don't think he says that just for my sake. But you can get any other type of blend there. Fair trade coffee, started in the Zapatista region. That's why they have that red star on their coffee. Fair trade. Check it out. They got a bunch of different. They got the light, bold and bold roast and all that. So, what's that?
I just said hell yeah.
There you go. Boom.
I was just in the Zapatista region, and it was beautiful and amazing. So you're supporting a beautiful society when you buy JustCoffee.coop.
There you go. 30% off. Do that over the next 2 weeks. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, Matthew Film Guy.
You passed through your teeth, there was no pity.
We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Ladies and gentlemen, every now and then, the day is Friday. And every now and then, on those every now and then, it's a smaller subset of Fridays, but a significant subset. On those Fridays, we have the opportunity to play this song.
Matthew Matthew, the film guy, is choosing your streams. Cassavetes on Netflix and other such themes. Maybe you'll watch one and learn a few things. Please recommend me a movie to stream. Matthew, please recommend me a movie to stream. Matthew, Film Guy.
Film Guy Matthew, Film Guy. Hello, Matthew, Film Guy.
Hello, Sam Seder. Hola, semito, should I say?
Por qué?
Just to
Tu
spice
dices.
things up. Yeah.
Just in celebration of Jamie returning from Mexico. Is that what's going on?
I'll go with yes.
All right.
Tenemos que practicar nuestro español.
She needs to practice her Spanish, apparently. It's verdad?
Sí.
We're so close to making this show all in Spanish. I can only imagine. Matthew, Film Guy, what is new with you? I know at this time of year you start to get very holiday oriented, and your eBay page explodes. Is that what's happening?
Definitely. Everyone should go check out my eBay page. You can find me at Langdon Boom on Twitter, and there's a link there. And usually it's just turning over last year's Christmas and Hanukkah presents to pay for this year's Christmas and Hanukkah presents. You follow my logic there?
Yeah, I totally do.
It's an environmental stance more than anything else.
Wow. Now, you have a list that you have posted, if I am not mistaken, on Twitter that you did just moments ago, maybe in anticipation of this. Every movie I have seen since 1995.
That is correct. I've taken the natural lull in the editor business cycle at the end of the year to finally get on top of a project that I've been wanting to do ever since basically the internet was invented, which is take the extremely nerdish list that I've kept of every movie I've seen since around December 1995 and commit it to posterity on the internet to share with all my fellow film guys and gals out there. And I use the social media platform Letterboxd, which is like a movie-based social media platform. And it's pretty cool. You get to see the posters, and you can kind of talk about it with other people. And so it's out there for your film guy extravaganza experience.
Now, help me out here. What's the order about? Is Life of Brian the first movie that you saw in 1995?
Well, actually, here's actually how it breaks down. The first about 40 to 50 of those are what I was able to recreate from a file I've kept as a film guy of all the sort of receipts from movie rental houses and like movie tickets and all the kind of just paraphernalia I've accumulated. And I was able to kind of recreate the first like lists and things that I've kept, the first few movies I started to see when, I turned like 13 or 14, and I had an uncle who was like a real film-loving type guy, and he said, you've got to see these movies. So the first about 10 or 15 are all the ones that he said, if you think you're going to be a film guy, you've got to see these. And then somewhere around, 50 or 60, it starts to be the actual list that I kept accurately every single movie I've seen for the past, whatever that is, 23 years.
So this is the order in which you saw them, starting when you were 13. Is that what I'm to understand?
Yeah, I mean, there's a gap between, like, I'd say 1989 and 1995. I saw a ton of movies that are not represented there, but I wanted to include those first 30 or 40 because I feel like if you're becoming a film guy, you could do worse than watching those first 20 or 30.
All right, well,
so it is one, like, go ahead.
Should we go through some of those just so you can say a brief
feel
word?
Free.
Life of Brian, I assume most people, well, no, I mean, maybe that's my own bias. I assume most people are aware of that film. It's a Monty Python
movie.
Classic. It's very funny. It's not, the what was their first movie? Was Holy Grail their first one?
That was their first one, yeah.
And that
After
one, I think,
the show
was
went off the air in 71, yeah. Go ahead.
And do you want to say something about that? Or I mean, I think I've probably said enough. But
well, I'll just tell you my personal connection to it was the reason that's the first one is that, you know, I had, like a lot of kids my age, I picked up a video camera and was making ridiculous sketches and things like that in the backyard. And my uncle saw some of them, and they involved, like, you know, chopping off hands and kind of bizarre, morbid humor. And he said the first two he said to me is, you've got to see The Life of Brian, and you've got to understand who Monty Python is. And that sort of started me off loving Monty Python. And then he said, you've got to see Harold and Maude, because he said, you sort of reminded me of Harold with all these, if you've seen Harold and Maude, the sort of fake deaths. So all this kind of stuff, absurdist violence and things like that, that was the in for me as, I was closer to 14 or 15, I think, at that time.
And Harold and Maude, of course, is the famous spring-fall romance.
Spring, deep winter.
Yeah,
romance.
maybe it might be
part of
early
like,
spring.
It might be like March and early February.
Yes,
it's sort of like
the next
New
year.
Year's Eve and New Year's Day, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the Dark Knight? Is that the one in? Is that Holy Grail?
No, that's Holy Grail.
The
It's
Black Knight,
Black
yeah,
Knight.
the Black Knight.
Yeah, that's dark.
That reminded me of
so
Sam.
Life of Brian.
That reminded me of Sam and Cernovich, actually.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, he was trying to kick you in the kneecaps as you were just like walking away laughing.
Life of Brian was about Jesus, or more or less.
Yeah.
And,
What have the
It
Romans
was
ever done
sort of
for us? is
Jesus,
Life of
the
Brian,
guy born
right?
in the manger next to Jesus. If that doesn't sell it to you, then nothing will.
Life of Brian's great. I mean, they're both great. Yeah.
At Close Range, what's that one?
Oh, that's an awesome movie. It's about Christopher Walken is like a criminal, and his sons are Sean Penn and Chris Penn. It also has Crispin Glover, and it's sort of like a family crime drama, but it's sort of like a cult movie, and it's not exactly a high, it's not like high on the list of cinematic masterpieces, but it's just a great sort of 80s crime drama that if you're into that kind of stuff, because around that time he also sort of said you got to see Taxi Driver and Mean Streets and this kind of stuff. So this is where my thinking was at that time, but I highly recommend it still to anyone fans of those guys. It's really a tour de force of those actors.
And Joe is number 4. What's Joe? I don't even remember that one.
Well, I think I just recommended that to, I guess, was I on just with Michael, or is your memory that bad? Joe is, I think, one of the most important movies that anyone can watch these days. It's about the sort of the racist at the end of the bar, and he, it's not ringing a bell?
No.
Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle plays the quintessential Archie Bunker character, and it's basically about a rich middle-class or upper middle-class banker who goes looking for his runaway hippie daughter, who is like tuned in, turned on, and dropped out, and she's living in like a commune, and he's going after her, and he runs into this guy Joe at the bar, and it basically becomes like they stalk these hippies and they try to like hunt them down, but I don't really want to give away what goes on. They kind of like wind up hanging out with the hippies, and it's this real like, generation gap movie from 1970. And Joe himself embodies who basically Donald Trump is like the Joe president. And at the time, he was just a crank at the end of the bar. Now he's sort of moved into the mainstream. But yeah, everyone needs to go out and see Joe if they haven't yet seen it. And in fact, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank one of your listeners who actually works at Olive Films, who put out the Blu-ray recently of Joe, who unbidden sent it to me, thanking me for promoting the movie on your show.
Wow.
And he also sent me A New Leaf by Elaine May, one of my classic favorites that I've mentioned on the show. So yeah, that movie has just come out on Blu-ray, and I think every listener of this show who's into politics, if there are any, need to go see this right away.
Wow. All right. I guess that makes sense that you would get the DVD, not the platform that you were promoting. But that's all right. We don't need to get into that.
But no, I got the Blu-ray. He sent me the Blu-ray.
Okay.
You weren't tracking the core of the point there.
No, I
Film
think you
Guy.
missed it. I'm not talking about the actual, the mechanism.
I like. He totally did in any store. It's like, no, it was a Blu-ray.
You can get one, Sam. They're out there.
Yeah, no, they're available.
Well, then I have to get a Blu-ray player, and I don't have time.
He didn't send me the only one.
All right, I understand. I think you missed the point. Number 5, you have The Devils.
Yes.
Don't know that one either. Don't even know that.
Man, Sam, this is a great day for you. Yeah, The Devils. That's Ken Russell. His story about Cardinal Richelieu and how they kind of had a real-life witch hunt amongst certain nuns who were getting a little too politically powerful in a city-state. It's like political intrigue, Oliver Reed, Vanessa Redgrave, some sort of psychosexual perversion in a way. I don't want to give too much away, but if you know Ken Russell's movies, they always have this kind of dark sexual aspect to them. Yeah, but it's really a great political movie again. Not that these all have to be or are, but it's really about the power of the Cardinal Richelieu's, his reign, his hold on power, and the way that the federal government basically was taking advantage of this city-state that was getting a little too powerful for its own good. And it's about nuns who, masturbate, basically.
Right, of course. Annie Hall, also about nuns who masturbate.
Exactly. They're all the rest of the list is nuns who masturbate.
The Annie Hall, of course, Woody Allen's probably maybe his most famous of films, maybe?
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely. And I think definitely his best movie.
Better than Bananas?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the early funny ones are what they are, but this is the one that it started to be more about, like, not just the yucks, but about sort of, like, relationship insights and a little more,
movies are better. He's so pretentious.
I mean, they get more pretentious than that, than Annie Hall.
I found like Crimes and Misdemeanors to actually be like insufferable. I do like Annie Hall, but a lot of movies that people point to at Woody Allen is like profound.
I'm not even sure.
Incredibly pretentious.
Yeah, look, Woody Allen's not exactly a super deep philosopher. He's still going for jokes, but it's they're pulling from less slipping on a banana that's the size of a car than like, why doesn't this woman want to talk to me? So to me, that's a little bit of a step up.
Can you guys still enjoy Woody Allen now, knowing everything that we know about him?
That's a good question. I've held on to Annie Hall just because it was so sort of integral to me, but it's complicated now. It really is. And there's moments in all of his movies now that you're like, ugh, especially like Stardust Memories or Manhattan.
In Manhattan,
where he's literally dating a young girl. I don't know. I'm very conflicted about all that. So, yeah, that's a
I
good
wish
question.
him and Soon Yi the best.
I hadn't watched.
Frankly,
I don't think I've watched one in ages. Maybe it's been in part a function of that. Like I don't feel that comfortable with it anymore. I also feel like it's dated. Comedy I find gets dated. That's my experience. That a lot of comedy gets super dated because it is so much about a shared understanding at that time that is, I think, less universal.
Transcendent.
Yeah, it's weird.
More deep comedic insight from Samantha.
Yeah, but I will say there are some comedies that manage to do that through time. Like, I'll still laugh at Marx Brothers movies. I still laugh at certain aspects of movies in the silent era that
right.
I guess they don't strike as deeply into their cultural milieu that they can sort of.
Why do those Monty Python movies hold up?
Because I think part of it is they're historical films. That may be part of it.
Did you say Python, Michael?
Yes. Ones you picked.
The Flying Circus definitely doesn't hold up, in my opinion.
Right.
Well, these are not my picks. This is the list of every movie I've seen since a certain time period. But The Life of Brian, I definitely think still the political insight into the hypocrisy of sort of religion and cults and groupthink, that still is relevant today as it ever was. So in a sense, it transcends all that as long as people are gathering together and are hypocrites.
But part of the problem too, it seems to me, in terms of is that new comedic forms become adopted into the sort of the broad comedy culture, and then they get tired. They get tired out very quickly. Like what was groundbreaking,
like the mockumentary format.
Yes, the mockument. Thank you. I appreciate that, but I don't. I wouldn't use format. I mean, that's like saying cinema is tired. Maybe it is.
It may someday.
Yeah.
I hope I don't live to see it.
But my point is that when Woody Allen was doing Woody Allen, he was unique. Now that just becomes like, oh, everybody was doing that type of comedy. Everybody adopts it.
So that's actually interesting because that's like the difference, and this is obviously subjective, but like when I first heard Lenny Bruce, I was like, well, I understand that he's historically important, but this is not actually that funny. And then George Carlin was like, "Oh, this is historically important," and it still seems pretty funny to me. Like that's an interesting, like, how do you pull that off?
I never found George Carlin.
Never
funny.
found.
No.
Wow, that's bizarre.
But hey, say what you want about Woody Allen. Guy's got a great sense of mise en scène.
There you go. That's right.
Sam, would you like to say something about that?
No, I would not.
Yes, I would. I'm going to tweet it out right now.
Clockwork.
It's a totally different situation. Woody Allen was a genius.
Clockwork Orange, your next film, number 7 that you watched. Of course, everybody's going to watch that one.
Clockwork Orange. Kubrick's not one that really stuck with me. I'm not like a Kubrick worshiper. I respect him and everything like that, but his sort of austerity and kind of sort of mechanistic film style, it's not, I mean, he's definitely a genius filmmaker, but it's not my favorite flavor of cinema.
But you stayed in that neighborhood. You were Naked Lunch and then back to Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
Strangelove, rather.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
I mean,
Duel.
remember,
Strangelove was
this
good
is
too.
like this is like basic 101, like a film guy stuff you've got to see to understand what is being done out there. A cut above just your sort of Saturday kids movies.
Well, Dr. Strangelove is a great one. I mean, right?
Why Duel?
That is still my favorite.
I was going to say, we got to touch on
I
that
think
for a
it's still
second.
funny. I've seen it recently.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's watched that, or they certainly should. But Duel, that first Steven Spielberg, is it the first Steven Spielberg movie?
That's right. That's right. It was his TV sort of movie debut, and so that was another ground floor movie to get in on. That he was able to make this movie that was just before the shark and the man on the boat. It was the guy in the car and the tractor trailer trying to run him off the road.
Now, was this the one that ended with the guy driving into the tractor trailer and blowing himself up or something?
A spoiler alert, Sam.
Well,
I'm not gonna give you the end
whatever.
of
You
this
know what?
stuff,
Who
too.
cares about Steven Spielberg? Because what's problematic about
the
this
truck
film...
drives off the cliff. The truck drives off the cliff.
What's problematic with this film, if I remember correctly, is it's the one, it didn't do well, and Spielberg was like, I'm never making another movie for me again. I'm only going to make garbage films that make a ton of money. Now, I don't think that's the exact quote, but that's the paraphrase, isn't it?
I don't know that story. I didn't hear that, and I think Duel was like, it wasn't his first TV that he directed. He'd done a bunch of episodes of other shows and things like that. So I'm really not sure if that's what that is.
It's when he started putting out
You may be thinking of
schlock
Sugarland
like Schindler's
Express.
List.
Well, maybe I'm thinking of Sugarland Express. Yeah, that's true.
Just schlock like
maybe.
Schindler's List, right, Matthew?
That's my approach to podcasting.
That's
like literary hangover did hit the Come Down Part 2 coming at you,
Exactly.
bastards. Well, actually, I love Come
And then here comes All the President's Men, particularly apropos, I think, in these days.
Yes, my uncle was also very eager to teach me about politics and sort of Nixon and what that was like. And now I just recently got a text from him saying, like, I'm so glad you lived to have your own Watergate. I was like, thanks a lot.
There you go. Next, Madam Butterfly. Interesting.
That
It's
one
a
I actually saw in the
13-year-old?
theater. That's you can skip that.
Okay.
And Butterfly, David Cronenberg, not his best moment.
Yeah, and The Hand. Cronenberg sometimes bothered me a little bit, but we don't need to get into that.
It's because you got a problem with like substances like
I like
bodily
Scanners.
fluids and all that.
Scanners I liked.
Sure.
But I didn't see that one. But Scanners hit at the perfect time for me because, I think I was 13 when that came out, and I was just like, oh, that's so cool, man.
Exploding heads is
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
The Hand. What's that? I never saw that one. That's Oliver Stone, right?
It's crappy, but it's Oliver Stone's like first movie, so it was like you got to see Oliver Stone's first movie, don't you? Not really, but I did at the time.
Now the next one is very exciting to me because I remember when Down by Law came out. I think I was in college or around then. It was like the first, I feel like, independent film that I saw, and I feel like Down by Law started the whole, I guess, modern independent film. Maybe that, or was part of that anyways around that time.
Well, it was actually Jim Jarmusch's previous film that I would hang that title on, Stranger Than Paradise.
Oh, right. Okay.
This
I'm thinking of Stranger in
yeah.
Paradise. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry. Down by
that
Law
is
was his
pretty
follow-up.
Acknowledged by film guys everywhere.
Yep. And I got to say, Jim Jarmusch, I think, just favorited a tweet or liked a tweet that mentioned me, and I was extremely excited by that.
That's cool. I mean, Jim Jarmusch is also another one of these sort of original film nerds his influences, the thing, once I started to love his films, realizing who he was referencing and ripping off and so on, that led me down a whole other sort of tributary of amazing artists that led me to like Chantal Ackerman, who did Jean Dielman, the movie I think I've talked about a lot, about the woman doing housework for 3 hours, or guys like Ozu, or some of these type of other filmmakers. Nicholas Ray.
Make Ghost Dog? Is that true?
Yeah, he made Ghost Dog. That's right.
It's a very odd movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Ghost Dog.
He's sort of a chameleon. Jarmusch is sort of a chameleon. Some would say, a dilettante, like he's just doing a little of this, he does a little of that, But I always enjoy what he's done. Dead Man was his Western with Johnny Depp. That's another good one.
And
also, by the way, Jim Jarmusch from Akron, Ohio, same as me and same as LeBron James. So
wow, interesting.
He's in my good book.
I can definitely see I can definitely see that. You all
we all three are very similar.
Character. In the Soup, you took like sort of a weird turn here. You right? I mean, or no? That was
Alexander Rockwell. In the Soup premiered at the same Sundance Film Festival as El Mariachi and Reservoir Dogs and Gatsby's Lodging.
In the Soup. Okay, yeah, no, I got confused. Right, of course, I remember this one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Young
So,
Steve Buscemi.
and Alexander Rockwell has gone on to make some other sort of obscure independent films, but In the Soup just came out as a 4K Blu-ray, which I did not get a copy of, but maybe you will, Sam. And people can rediscover that now, but it was sort of out of print for a long time. I think that's actually like when it came out is that point in the list where I saw it. But it's great. It's got Seymour Cassel from all the Cassavetes movies, and it's about an independent filmmaker trying to make a movie. So it really appeals to the burgeoning film guy.
Buscemi was in a bunch of those, like independent movie about an independent movie.
Right. Well, Living in Oblivion is the most famous example where they're on the set and it's a haphazard series of mishaps. Yeah, that's a great one too.
Do you like Truffaut's
That's only
movies?
for serious film nerd film guys.
Do you like
Living in Oblivion?
Truffaut movies about making movies?
That Day for Night, it's okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I saw the dubbed version, which at the time was the only one I could see, so it was really hard to kind of, take seriously. Dubbed movies are very hard for me.
Awkward, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this next one. This one interests me. I'm curious your perspective on this. A Perfect World. This is directed by Clint Eastwood. Not only is it directed by Clint Eastwood, the music was composed by Clint Eastwood, and I still remember for a long time I was into what do you call it? What's that Cajun Cajun music? And he wrote a song in there that Big Daddy. I can't remember what it was. It's a pretty good song actually.
Interesting. I did not know that, Sam.
Yes, there you go.
Is it as good as Steven Seagal's reggae?
No, it was good. But Eastwood
I never
directed
heard it, but
this
I
one.
cannot imagine anything's that good.
Eastwood directed this one. It's not a movie I would have imagined that was in the first 15 that you saw.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. That right there is basically where it starts the list of actual printouts of receipts that I've had from renting movies when I lived with my grandmother in high school. So I have a feeling that was her pick, and we watched that one together.
Thoughts?
I can't say it was amazing, but I remember thinking it was pretty good. It's sort of like a neo-noir kind of a thing with Kevin Costner. Again, I literally have not seen it since that must be 1993 when it came out. So I wouldn't necessarily put that on the Film Guy must-see list.
If I may, Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, great fucking movie, but Invictus, total smear job. Lies. Fuck Eastwood.
Yeah.
All right.
Total
listen,
SJW posing as a patriot.
That's probably a good one a good place to stop and catch up. Although I see you got Straw Dogs. That was the original, I presume. And Deliverance it comes up. Clerks, of course, that Kevin Smith film. People should check this out. We should put this on. We should link to this on the Majority Report. Blow Up, I see. I'm just going through there. Paths of Glory, amazing movie. Obviously, The Graduate. Blue, The Big Blue, all the Blue films, everything I
had a Blue period.
You had a Blue period. Heat, horrible movie as far as I recall. Tape Heads, I remember that one. It goes on and on, folks. So you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk films with anybody that wants to tweet at me or to talk to me through Letterboxd. It's a brand new account that I've opened, so yeah, put it up there and let's have at it.
So Matthew, Film Guy, what is the film that you would recommend that we watch if we didn't want to have to weed through your list of movies that you've seen since 1995?
Well, this week I want to recommend a movie that was directed by someone who I actually went to film school with and is a very talented filmmaker named Ryan Sarnowski. He did a documentary on this guy named Merle Hayden, who was basically the last adherent to a system of economics that came out of the 30s post-Depression called Lawsonomy. And it has a really fascinating history to it. I never heard of it. Has anyone there ever heard of Lawsonomy?
No.
It sort of was a, the basic tenets as far as the film kind of lays out for you is that lending money at interest is abolished, and the government will give what they call direct credits to people, so banks don't own anything. It seems like it has some aspects of socialism, some aspects of maybe like Henry George's single tax, but the basic idea was that usury and lending at interest is outlawed. And then it became kind of like it took off as a political movement, and then it sort of became like a cult, and it sort of eventually morphed into a religion where they had their own sort of church, and they had a center in Iowa that actually became very controversial. It sort of was accused of like kidnapping kids and having kind of basically a cult compound. But the guy who started it, Alfred Lawson, was actually like the inventor of the passenger airplane. He had the first commercial airliner and was like this very sort of a polymath kind of inventor type in the 30s. And then he started doing these sort of speeches that were about how the banks and the fat cats were using you. And this guy Merle was like in his teens at the time, and all throughout the last, whatever it is, 75 years, he sort of kept it going, where every year he sets up a booth at this air show in Wisconsin where their university eventually wound up. And it's this sort of look into his life, which is, I thought, extremely sort of touching and really informative, and also at the same time this history of this obscure kind of capitalist alternative that I was surprised I never heard of, and it sort of speaks to what was coming out of the 30s, the kind of possibilities for alternative economics after the Depression. So it kind of is a good lesson for anyone today thinking of similar things.
Wait, what's the name of the movie?
Man Life. The name of the movie is Man Life.
Man Life. This Alfred Lawson I'm looking up now. Fascinating guy. He was a baseball player.
Yes, he actually, they say in the documentary that he may be the first one to put numbers on the back of baseball players' jerseys. Like, he was this innovator in various different forms, and then he basically became like a religious leader in this kind of a cult.
Weird. He also...
so don't let that happen to you, DSA.
What's that? Do become a cult and then a religion?
Morph into a religion and a cult, yeah. Because, you start off with what sounds like good principles, and then, personalities intervene. I'm not saying it will, but it's just an interesting alternative history of some similar groups.
And I'm sorry, the title of the film again?
Man Life. It's
Life.
after the title of one of his many tracts. He wrote all these tracts. It was about how to live healthily and how to have your business be healthy, and it was very interesting. And the documentary is basically an intimate portrait of the last guy to basically carry the torch. And he has like stacks of these pamphlets still in his house, and he's still sort of carrying the torch for this weird and obscure alternate economic
I can't
life.
find it. All I see is the Bud Dwyer. Where is Man Life? Is it where? Can you find it?
It's available on all systems. Available on Amazon. Available on iTunes. MANLIFE.
One word?
Yep, one word.
Man Life. Okay, there we go. Ryan Sarnowski, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I'm
a very, very talented gentleman. Not the best looking guy, but still very talented.
All right.
Regarding the DSA, I'm actually working on a psychedelic earth worshipping religion that's going to fuse and create a synthesis with socialism, but it's very different. It's not a cult. It's a movement.
There you go. It's a movement.
Send me your pamphlet.
And
Man life, Samantha. Ha ha.
And everybody's and you just got to send in. You got to send in cash, right, for that. And no.
Yes.
All right. Well, there it is, folks. Man life. Anything else we should know about Film Guy Matthew for the time being?
Anything else you should know about? What are you insinuating?
I'm saying if there's anything else you need to tell us.
Anything else I need to tell you? What could that be?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I will say this. It's actually the Central Queens YM and YWHA that I teach at, not Long Island City JCC. But, that's okay. If anybody wants to come take my class, Central Queens YM and YWHA in Forest Hills, Queens.
That is what I was waiting for. Film Guy Matthew, thank you so much for your time today. Folks, we'll check out Man Life and your list of every movie that you have watched since December of 1995. My God.
Thanks, Sam. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye. Matthew Film Guy, everybody. Matthew Film Guy. I don't believe that we have a Jimmy Reefer Cake song, do we?
Oh, darn.
I do not see one. Maybe it's because of Michael's attitude.
Probably Michael's attitude on social media.
Yeah. What have you gotten into?
Media? I don't think so.
Ooh, we did have somebody who pulled some Gorka sound clips.
Check me out at all the hypocrisy.
Private part, punch Mitt Romney and burn this mother effer down.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, in that case, we're going to head into the fun half of the program. On Monday, Marcy Wheeler will join us to walk us through the latest developments in the Mueller case. It is, for those of you who have not been engaging in this, it feels like it's probably a good time to start, because when this stuff goes down, it's probably going to be, something that people are going to be talking about.
Because you want war with Russia.
Because of
Here's my question is, how did Marcy Wheeler get compromised into the war agenda?
Well, that'll be the first question I ask her.
By the way, the whole Russia thing's a hoax.
It could very well be.
It's a total hoax. But you hate WikiLeaks and you love my wife so much that you're willing to take us to war.
There you go. So on Monday,
MSNBC.
Somebody else I saw called it MSDNC.
Exactly. Interchangeable.
I love that. That's good.
Probably more independence of thought on MSNBC. They might occasionally criticize the Democratic Party.
More like MSW Wasserman Schultz.
MSDWS.
Do you know what Rush Limbaugh used to call it?
There's other Jews besides her to support in public life.
More like NSNB superdelegates.
MS, I'm Sam Seder. I love superdelegates. Say.
Do you know what Rush Limbaugh used to call MSNBC? MSPMS or PMS in NBC.
Oh, man.
PMS. They used to call it PMS.
That's actually funny. Good. That's the best one.
PMS.
It'd be pretty amazing to be doing exactly this just in the 90s.
Oh, my God.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, oh, my God. All right. We're going to take a quick break.
You don't know what PMS means until you've met my wife. Ask Vince Foster.
Okay. So,
hashtag
just a reminder, Foster. This program relies on your support. You can become a member by going to jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you support this live show. You support our interviews. And then as a way of saying thank you, we give you extra content in the fun half. Today, we're going to be launching the war on Christmas. The first shots heard between Tucker Carlson and Dave Rubin. Not between them, of course. They were holding the gun together, almost like at the range where you see somebody teaching their young child how to fire a gun.
Don't take Dave Rubin to the range. Just general sort of public service announcement.
I
think that can end very badly.
Yes.
I'm just talking on a coordination and basic processing level.
Don't forget, folks, that justcoffee.coop for the next 2 weeks, 30% off. You don't even need a coupon code. Just head over there, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. This is a great time to check out Just Coffee and see, maybe change your blend, maybe try it for the first time, maybe try a bunch of different blends. This is the time to do it. You will not have this opportunity again, at least for another 4 or 5 months. So justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Also, the live Majority Report show at the Brooklyn PodFest at the Bell House is more than half sold out now. We're about almost a month and a half away. I would imagine we're going to sell out before Christmas. So you better get on it now. Makes for a great gift. Anybody's over the age of 18, it's only $15. And we should have a very fun time there. So check it out. You can go directly to the Bell House, or you can go to our website at majority.fm and get the link. Today is Friday, which means that sometime during this week, one of the days was Tuesday, and on that day, Michael Brooks had his show.
Yes, Michael Brooks Show. Go to patreon.com/TMBS, iTunes, or Michael Brooks Show on YouTube. Get it all. And our live show as well, like a sack of potatoes quickly emptying. You can get your tickets there at majority.fm as well. How fun would it be to go to both shows?
Super fun. Super fun. Super fun. Jamie, yesterday, or not yesterday, but Wednesday, when I asked you, seemed still to be a little bit had a tequila hangover in a way. What is the story?
Do they have
with
good tequila in
the
Chiapas?
They do.
That's cool.
They have good tequila in Mexico?
Well, isn't it there regional
I drank a lot of
differences with
mezcal.
tequila?
Well, they might.
There's different mezcal in different regions.
There's different mezcal in different regions, so also tequila, right?
I actually drank mostly mezcal.
Cool.
But now that we got that out of the way, what's happening with the Antifada?
Yeah, so we've been very tired, but we've figured out what we're doing this weekend. Sean and I will be recapping our trip to Mexico, particularly our visit to the autonomous Zapatista community of Oventique, where we got to speak to the junta there and got a little tour of their amazing, beautiful, libertarian, socialist society. That was pretty special experience for us. We're going to give a little background on the Zapatista uprising and the continuing struggle in Chiapas. And we're also going to talk about the caravan of internally displaced people that we saw there and give some background on that.
Okay, and Matt, the literary hangover.
Yeah, this weekend for patrons, there will be another installation of the audiobook I'm narrating, Catherine Maria Sedgwick's Hope Leslie. And next weekend will be my breakdown of Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean.
Ooh, everybody's waiting with bated breath.
Doing a lot of research on that guy.
There's a lot of... And are you going to... Is this going to be the definitive determination as to the charges about that book?
A few people have written some decent pieces on it, but in terms of podcasts...
No, we got to make this travel far and wide, because that's a really important
it's
book.
Gonna be,
and libertarians, at least this is my bias, maybe I'll be corrected, but libertarians manipulated the constant liberal urge to own goal by slightly being like, maybe the book was a little bit unfair.
There's
instead of this incredibly important
there's some pretty liberal
history.
Historians who have some issues with it too.
Yeah. There's a very...
And I mean leftist historians.
No, I understand.
There's a bunch of different types of takes on it, and I'm going to try to do justice to them all. But I think the libertarians that respond to it do so in a revealing way, which is the thing I'm most excited about.
All right, folks. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the
fun half.
Are you ready?
Who's sent us this.
Alpha males are back, boys back, and the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back, boys back, and the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Almost says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
I am a total cunt.
Can we bring back DJ Dannerky's song, please?
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Dannerky.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense.
Hey, folks, reminder.
I do not have Parkinson's.
And the alpha males are
psych. Fuck 'em.
Almost says what? Almost says what?
Hell of a lot of bank. 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 Hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
The alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on! Fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday! Happy birthday to me, Jew boy!
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are back. Africans are black.
Come on! Come on! Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here. I am a total pussy.
Shoot. All right, we are back. It just occurs to me that would be worthwhile to play in relationship to this. We've got some pretty crazy stuff today to play in the fun half of the program, ladies and gentlemen. We will get to that shortly. First, let's go to the phones. Calling from a 210 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? I got calling from a 210 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Sam. It's John from San Antonio.
Good afternoon, Sam. I'm John. How are you?
Yeah, right. I'm okay. Okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, the majority report has covered the Yemen war and the humanitarian crisis better than just about any other media outlets, and so the War Powers Act resolution, co-sponsored by Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy, which seeks to end support for the Saudi-led campaign in Yemen, had 55 votes for and 44 against last March, and it seemed dead, but because it didn't meet the 60-vote threshold required to advance the bill, with 10 Democratic senators opposing the resolution. And on Wednesday, all Democrats flipped their votes, and the resolution passed 63-37. Hopefully, the Democrats will pass the bill in the House in January. And if Trump vetoes the bill, all the senators that would voted for the advance the bill will continue to vote for it. The Senate will only need to flip 4 seats to overcome a Trump veto. So,
well, now, but wait a second. But won't the makeup of the Senate be different then?
Yeah, that's a good point.
My understanding is that it becomes harder for him to veto There's some complication with it being a preferred, or I guess a privileged bill in the House. I'm not exactly sure, but he could theoretically veto it, and then there will be Republicans who are, we've lost a couple of seats, right? I mean, I'm not sure how that plays out.
That's true. I mean, I'm not really. I guess I should have done more research into who actually passed. The people that are going out. I mean, it's still a possibility, though. I mean, the fact that a lot of Republicans flip, like Lindsey Graham, who you would never think would flip, and all the Democrats flip, 10 of them. So, I mean, I'm just saying, generally, it's good news, and. I mean, you still need 4 votes, but you're right, it's different people. Yeah. So I'll do some more research into that, and I'll look at the people going in and going out and see how it goes from there. So it's also been a great week for Bernie Sanders. On Tuesday, he released his book of Where We Go From Here. Last Monday night, he had a book release party in Manhattan at the town hall. Last Tuesday, he held an event at George Washington in D.C. The Sanders Institute gathering started last night with Bernie giving the keynote speech. This morning, I've been watching the live stream, which has had exceptional panels covering how will we win Medicare for All. The second panel is Medicare for All. I Like It. How do we pay for it? Which features Robert Poland, who's the co-director of the Political Economic Research Institute. He's a professor at economics at UMass Amherst and a fellow at the Sanders Institute. And he was interviewed by Michael Leidy, who's also a fellow at the Sanders Institute. Poland defended Sanders' Medicare for All plan during the 2016 presidential run, and he'd be a great guest to have on. So I encourage everybody to listen to all of this show. But, if you listen live, I would encourage you to listen to the day's remaining panels on criminal injustice at 3 p.m. Eastern, featuring Nina Turner, Dr. Cornel West, and Sean King, and Danny Glover. And at 4:30 Eastern, there's an international roundtable feature Bernie and Yanis Varoufakis. And panels for tomorrow include civil rights, immigration, and human dignity on the front line, the mayor's roundtables, Puerto Rican austerity or Green New Deal, short takes on ideas into action, the climate crisis, and the Green New Deal, housing.
Fernando Haddad's going to be up there as well, and Bernie invited him and made sure that the Workers' Party in Brazil is represented in that as well, which is just incredibly important. And I just think Yemen and Brazil are really underlining Bernie's very unique value. So just to echo John.
All right, John.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate the call. Thanks, man.
All right.
What's so funny?
He gets it. He knows
you usually give me a little more time, but that's okay.
What do you mean a little more time? What?
Shots fired.
What do you, I mean, come on, John. What?
Well, I got a little takedown on you from the Pago from Monday's call, but
Wait, what was the takedown on the Pago?
Well, you said it was part of sequestration, but actually it was a separate vote signed on February 10th by Obama. The sequestration was actually signed as a part of the Budget Control Act of 2011, and the fiscal. So that's what the fiscal cliff triggered sequestration. It actually started on March 1st, 2013.
Okay, well,
suicide
but it's
may
all
be the only
austerity,
option.
and we're all against it. So I mean, it's just technicalities, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a technicality, John. But maybe now we know why you were going to get short shrift today.
All right, I'll keep it in mind. I'll try to stay positive.
All right. No, I appreciate your keeping me honest, John. I appreciate that.
Add it. Don't you want to be like Mike from Pennsylvania with John? He'll kick your ass.
Also, on the Trump thing, Trump also went to Montana, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, and all those candidates lost.
Right.
So just throwing that out there, along with the North Dakota and Missouri and Indiana, where they won, and
Okay.
Florida.
Fair enough. But the redder
So it's
states.
been about 50-50.
Right, redder states.
Yeah,
though,
that's
right.
That's,
I mean,
he did work in
that's
North Dakota.
true. That's a good point. Good point.
right. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, Sam.
Usually give him a little more time.
What are you talking? What are you complaining about? Just say thank you, please.
Calling from a 401 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Joe Snuffy from just inside the U.S. overall. So I was calling in because I wanted to talk about a poll that was covered a different set from one that you guys usually talk about that was done back in October, right before the midterms.
Okay.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm referring to the so Military Times. It's like basically a magazine / newspaper that Armed Forces does. Technically, it's a separate group, but it's affiliated. They did a pretty large and good poll back in October that, amongst other things, talked about what the overall approval rating of the president and other key members of the administration were, as well as a few other policy issues and that kind of stuff. The overall big takeaway from it is that this year, 44% of service members that were polled have a favorable view of Trump. 43% have a disfavorable, down quite considerably as far as the favorable goes, and up quite considerably for the unfavorable. Back in 2016, right before the presidential election, it was 46% approve and 37% approve. And one of the key differences since then is that the percentage of respondents that had no opinion, that basically said they didn't care either way, or they hadn't made up their mind yet, that has actually dropped from 17% to 13%.
Okay. All right. So the point being that you think he's losing support amongst the U.S. military.
Well, and it goes into a bit more depth and breaking it down, just some really quick trends on that. The main group that supports him more than anyone else is within the Marine Corps.
But just, I mean, just let's, okay. I mean, these, all right. So he's lost support in the military. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, there's a, and this is another one of the things that they cover, there's a growing perception that when asked, is it likely that we're going to get involved in another war year or so, the percentage of people who responded yes to that has gone up dramatically.
So Joe,
overall,
stop reading me the results of the poll. Just tell me what you make of it.
Oh. Well, overall, that a lot of people gave him were willing to give him a shot when he first got. That's a pretty normal circumstance for people in the military when you have a change of political leadership. But a lot more people are.
So basically, the same thing that's happened, amongst Republicans has happened in the military. That the military started out by giving him, a benefit of the doubt, and then they saw that he's an idiot, and they are a little bit worried that that's going to become problematic for them. I appreciate the call.
Whoa, give him more time.
I appreciate. I think that's true. I think, it probably has gone down even in the wake of this deployment to the border, where people are like, what is he doing now?
Yeah.
Well, one.
I'm sorry,
if I can,
Joe. I meant to
add
hang
it.
up on you for whatever reason I couldn't do it. Joe, I'm literally pressing the button and it's not working. I don't know what's happening.
It's like no exit.
I can't. I'm Joe. I'm sorry.
You're gonna spend the rest
Do
of
you
your life.
need me to hang up?
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
that be
Oh,
helpful?
I
thanks,
do.
Joe.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
That
I'm
was
literally pressing
That was
hang up.
classy.
Well, I was going to make a serious point based on a conversation I had with our boy Spencer Rapone, but that just erased it from my mind. But they did do a very good episode recently of his Eyes Left podcast that's exactly about that, the madness of Trump's foreign policy, deploying troops to the border, what skeptical troops can do in that situation. I highly recommend it. Check it out.
I mean, what can they do beyond what an average, beyond what an average person?
Well, there's
who's
a new poll that came out that said the following.
I honestly cannot. There's something. The phones have frozen. Joe is still on the line. Joe,
man.
hang up the phone.
Joe's awesome.
Okay, will you please?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you can resist
Can you hang it
unlawful
up?
order. Never mind.
You just did? All right. Yeah.
when the
there's something-
phone when the phone's settled, go to that.
Well, the phones. There's a problem with the phones. So. I mean, I can do that, but I don't see. It's not. I mean, if it's not showing up in the, there's something on the server end that is a problem.
You have a wonderful day, bro, and I'll see you again soon.
I cannot get him off the line. I got myself off the line. Now I'm not there.
Dude, Joe,
It's
Joe. It's actually a hack.
It's Joe's show now.
Yeah, it's Joe's military poll numbers.
Were you able to get him off?
Thank you for calling into the Majority
He's
Report.
still there.
Sam will be with you shortly.
I don't know what if he's cracked some type of code where he can somehow stay on the line and I can't.
He's got some numbers for us, dude.
Joe, hang up the phone.
Hang up to Joe. Hey, Joe, this is an order from your superior officer.
All right, he's gone now. Thank God. Oh my God. Huh? No, I got him off now. He's gone. Jesus.
To help with connectivity.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely
so awesome. Did you see my AM?
Yeah, I don't see it. Oh wait, maybe. Let's see here. Nope, don't see that number. Let's go first to Donald Trump. He's on the White House lawn. He's a little bit concerned because his consigliere has basically gone in and admitted that he perjured himself in front of Congress. Maybe Donald Trump has perjured himself. We don't know. There's nothing wrong with being cool and doing a cool building with a cool country and giving its cool leader.
If I said I wasn't cool, it would be perjury.
It would be perjury. So,
took an oath. Took an oath.
Took an oath to do it all. I had to be cool for everybody. But here is Donald Trump.
President, here he's back.
That doesn't mean I'm not allowed to do business. I was doing a lot of different things when I was running. After I won, obviously I don't do business from January 20th, but more importantly, which is a following year. But I ran a business. In fact, I often joke about the fact that I was the only person that campaigned and simultaneously ran a business. But that was
Pause it.
that was a
I don't. Do you recall that? Like maybe you did.
There was a lot of jokes.
No, it was all personal jokes. It was I did it.
I thought he was joking about how he was going to distance himself from his business, and
that was funny.
Yeah,
that was
my
funny.
best bit.
I will totally separate my business
Look
from my
at
political
this stack
offices.
of folders of binders that are
I do
completely empty.
remember,
That's funny.
Yes, with the sad lawyer from Midtown.
Exactly.
That was a great bit.
All right.
Project that we didn't do. I didn't do. That was a project that wasn't done for a lot of reasons. Number one is that I was really, not that I had to do it, but I was focused on running for president. I wanted that to be my primary focus, not running or building a building. Well, this was a deal that didn't happen. That was no deal. I mean, if you look, this was an option. I guess, I don't know if I want to be very specific. So, but to my way of thinking, it was an option that I decided not to do. So we didn't. So if you look, we really didn't have, excuse me. So, excuse me. This was an option in a form, but here's very simple. we had
Super simple.
a position to possibly do a deal to build a building of some kind in Moscow. I decided not to do it. The primary reason, there could have been other reasons, but the primary reason, it was very simple. I was focused on running for president. There would be nothing wrong if I did do it. I was running my business while I was campaigning. There was a good chance that I wouldn't have won, in which case I would have gone back into the business. And why should I lose lots of opportunities? So here's the story. Go back and look at the paper that Michael Cohen wrote before he testified in the House and/or Senate. It talked about his position. What he's trying to do, because he's a weak person and not a very smart person, what he's trying to do is end, and it's very simple. He's got himself a big prison sentence, and he's trying to get a much lesser prison sentence by making up a story. Now,
Unlike
a
what I'm doing right
lot
now.
of people would have trouble articulating that my personal lawyer of 13 years, of whom I was his only client, is going to prison for a long time, and it's because he's not very bright.
And weak.
Like a lot of people would say, like, "Hey, are you not a little bit concerned?"
It's a charity case. I hired him as a favor. He did it all in his
That's
own
what he
personal
said.
time. I know.
That's what he said yesterday.
know.
It was a big favor.
He is so bitchy right now. You can
He's a messy
you can
bitch.
tell the stress though when he gets bitchy like that. That's when he's just like, I don't like how this is going. I told Nancy I liked her, so this should have all stopped.
Unbelievable, but we shall see. I really has anybody seen Donald Trump Jr. lately?
No.
Is he still like out and doing stuff?
Stop
Here
snitching.
he goes. This is Donald Trump. Oh, I get it. I'm a very good developer, happily living my life. When I see our country going in the wrong direction, to put it mildly, against all odds, I decide to run for president and continue to run my business. Very legal, very cool. Talked about it on the campaign trail. What's that? Yeah, 4:59 a.m. Like, yeah, normal.
All part of a very psychically, emotionally
Wait a
healthy
second.
schedule.
Where is he when he writes this? Is he in Argentina? Oh, he's en route.
En route.
Okay. I can't sleep on a plane.
Jet lag.
All right, so I get up early to do my exercises, and then I tweet at 4:59. Lightly looked at doing a building in Russia. Lightly. Put up zero money, zero guarantees. Didn't do the project. Witch hunt.
Scroll down to see the first reply. That might actually be funny.
Yeah, there you go. It's just somebody's in prison.
Committed some light treason. That's good.
Nice. The Trumps are like the Bluths, but less charming.
Yeah.
Do you know that the Bluths are actually modeled on the Bushes in some ways, and the whole housing development thing is some of it is a parable or for the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah, that show lives on in memes, but I'll say, speaking of our comedy conversation,
yes.
I don't think it ages. I tried to watch it like a few weeks ago.
Really?
Even the first
No.
seasons don't age that well.
Wow. I got to check it out now. That's surprising because
All
I
right.
remember that show just being incredibly funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's pick up a phone call here. Here we go. I don't see it. Here we go. Calling from a 646 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Sam. Is this me?
Yeah. 646?
Hi, this is Train Boy from New York. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind?
Well, I just thought I'd call in and share a story about how I harassed Laura Loomer when she decided to handcuff herself to the New York City Twitter headquarters door last night.
So for those people who don't know, Laura Loomer, she is the, how would you describe her? The right-wing provocateur who got bumped from Twitter, and she has made it, it is almost like a human rights violation from her perspective that her human rights were violated when she got bumped from Twitter. Is that an accurate assessment of her?
She's pretty much indistinguishable from Tomi Lahren, except for the fact that she's Laura Loomer is a brunette, and apparently she's Jewish.
Okay.
So she's a Jewish Nazi.
Oh, she's also much less successful than Tommy Lauren.
Well,
She's
I
an
wouldn't call
outsider.
either of them successful.
Loomer's an outsider. Tommy's on the inside.
Okay, so with that said, let's hear.
I got an analogy. Sorry, Loomer is sort of like to Tommy Lauren what James O'Keefe is to Ben Shapiro.
Okay, so there we go. So you saw Laura Loomer, and we will play video of this soon. But she handcuffed herself to the Twitter entrance in New York City, and you did what?
So the Twitter office in New York is about 5-10 minutes from my office, and I had a bit of downtime, so I decided to go there, see how she was holding up. And while I was there, I told her to go on Cumtown.
Oh, that was you. Wow, that shit went somewhat viral because I saw that.
Laura Loomer rolls. She's like, are there any Nazis that want to date a highly disturbed Jewish girl? Please. I'm Jewish. I have severe emotional and psychic issues, and I just want a skinhead.
Now look.
Why won't anyone help me?
And what did she say? She say she'd think about it? She handed out was her PR person there or what?
Well, she was too busy complaining about Louis Farrakhan, who is apparently relevant.
Louis Farrakhan, of course, is the CEO of Twitter.
Yeah.
And
may I add to this? When I called Jews bloodsuckers, I didn't do it on the Twitter platform. It's called terms of service.
All right, well, I appreciate the update. We're going to play some video of her now.
And
go.
one more thing before you let me go.
Yeah.
I took the liberty of buying the domain name cederforsenate.com.
Ooh.
Let's check out.
All right. Well, we know
Battle of the Cucks.
We know where to go for that. We'll see. All right. I'm not ruling it out these days. I mean,
I think after I
really
give
depends
Joe
on-
Manchin the deed to my house, I will have seen off any potential challenge from a progressive.
I mean, if nobody ran against him,
Somebody needs to run against him.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Somebody
somebody needs
we're gonna rent out, sublet the office, and we're all going in a camper van, and do this, the listening tour across New York State. All right, so let's get down to brass tacks, ladies and gentlemen. Laura Loomer, who was last seen, where was she last seen? She was last seen shoving Alex Jones out of the way so that she could talk to Jack Dorsey after he had testified in front of Congress. Jack Dorsey did not get involved in a conversation with her. Laura Loomer, the right-wing provocateur, or almost would-be provocateur, some who have rumored to have been a paramour of Mike Cernovich. I can't.
Nathan Bernard's still looking into that.
He's still looking into that. Okay.
He has
but
health
in the meantime,
supplements. It's so sexy.
In the meantime, she handcuffed herself to the Twitter headquarters. Let's play the video. Where's it start?
This is just right when she's handcuffing herself. And
Okay, so she handcuffed herself. I'll tell you the thing that I find sort of offensive here, and I will say that around the time of Pittsburgh, people started wearing. I saw some people in Brooklyn wearing the yellow star. That was the star that the Nazis made the Jews wear to identify them as a way of reappropriating it. Laura Loomer has. Here, go to the beginning of this video so we can watch how it starts. Is this how it starts? Oh, this is not. Oh, I see. Okay. And she's wearing a yellow star on her outfit. And at first when I saw this, I was like, you got to be effing kidding me. And then I thought about it for a while and I was like, you got to be effing kidding me. To equate yourself having been kicked off of Twitter to Jews who were ultimately taken to death camps seems to me to lack a certain perspective. Now, it's possible that there's something deeply, deeply wrong with Laura Loomer, which means that those people who are enabling her are really responsible for this. But on the off chance that there is not something deeply clinically wrong with her and she's just an incredible narcissist, we're going to play this video and then mock it. Here she is. She has handcuffed herself, and here's a couple of moments of that.
Laura, why didn't you handcuff yourself to both doors?
Why did I handcuff myself to both?
Why
Pause
didn't
it.
you?
So if you're just listening, we'll go back a little bit. If you're just listening, it is a two-door, like there's two doors. And there's handles on both doors. And she only handcuffed herself onto one door. So she's not actually preventing anybody from going in or out. It's just as if it's almost like people who are looking for a quarter and they open up the bank, like the bank ATM door for you. She's there and trying to hand out a piece of paper with a yellow Jewish star sewn onto her outfit. All right, continue.
Laura, why didn't you handcuff yourself to both doors?
Whoop.
Why did I handcuff myself to both?
Why didn't you? They're still getting in and out.
Well, I'm not trying to trap them inside the building.
It's a fire hazard.
That's a fire hazard, of course. But the issue here is that Jack Dorsey thinks that by banning me as a Jewish conservative woman from pointing out Jew hatred, I was defending women, I was defending gay people, I was defending Jewish people from bigotry and from hatred, from homophobia, from anti-Semitism, and I got banned.
Do we have an example of maybe some of that wonderful humanitarian defense that Laura Loomer has blessed us with on Twitter back in the day? Here's one. Stefan Molyneux writes, over 2,000 migrants have died crossing the Mediterranean so far this year. Presumably these are ones that are coming from Syria, maybe. I don't know when this was. This tweet was from, and she wrote, good, period, clap, clap, clap. Here's to 2,000 more. I guess with the hopes that none of those migrants were
Muslim.
Muslim, or none of them were women because she's so protective of women.
Oh, right.
Et cetera, et cetera. What else do we have? Other examples of Laura Loomer spreading her goodness on Twitter. Yeah, this is a nice one. She wrote, Muslims are in full force at the scene of the New York City ISIS attack today, rubbing it in everyone's face, aimlessly walking around in hijabs. There was two women who were wearing Muslim headgear who were just probably on the way to work or somewhere else.
They were walking.
Laura Loomer at one point was banned from Uber and Lyft after a tweet storm back in about a year ago now about anti-Muslim tweets that she was pushing. She wrote, someone needs to create a non-Islamic form of Uber or Lyft because I never want to support another Islamic immigrant driver.
Jesus.
I mean, come on. Now,
real warm fuzzy there.
Now,
this is exactly what they were struggling against in Nazi Germany.
Yes, and of course, it is because of her clear, her Jewishness that comes through in this. That is why she was banned.
Ban Muslims, date Nazis.
There you go.
It's a third way for Judaism.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Did she go home? Did she get tired and go home?
So what happened? I mean,
or did she pee her pants as she had promised?
Is that what was going to happen? She was going to pee her pants?
Tim Pool, a dubious reporter, Tim Pool, had reported that she was ready to defecate and urinate while handcuffed.
Ew.
But I don't know if it ever came to that.
Gross.
But the other thing, the first thing I heard Laura Loomer was
I remember.
I can't remember if this was like Charleston or some sort of white nationalisty protest. And she said, someone just slashed my tire. I'm honestly speechless 1 week after someone doxed me. And it was clearly just tire rot.
Right. It was pointed out that her tire, which have almost no treads, broke. not a slash.
Apparently, if you guys want it, this is also another instance of a fascist all of a sudden realizing that because these platforms have so much power over our lives, and because, in fact, in the long term, this could, well, it poses an immediate concern to them because they get kicked off of the platform for being disgusting, and all of a sudden we need to nationalize it so that free speech is protected. Apparently, Laura Loomer, I sent you the sound if you want it, said just that the other day, too, amidst her rants.
You know, it's interesting. The deplatforming now, Laura Loomer, I don't know, was that big of a pundit in any way. She's definitely trying to build her brand. But it is interesting to note now with some time the implications of deplatforming some of these people. Alex Jones is not, I mean, he may be doing the same sort of toxicity, but he is not part of the national conversation in the way that he used to be. Does anybody remember Baked Alaska? Right? I mean, these are figures who were toxic figures in our society. They have been deplatformed on these commercial platforms, and it's very hard to say. Now, I tend to agree that their social media has become ubiquitous enough that we need to take steps to change the dynamic. I don't know if that is we nationalize Google, we nationalize things like Facebook, or if we as a government say, okay, we're going to now break you up like we did the telephone companies back in the day, and we're going to offer the opportunity for people to have real competition here. I'm not sure, frankly, I haven't contemplated either solution as being the more optimal or desired, but something clearly needs to be done because of the process. Now, with that said, the value of deplatforming, I think, is pretty clear.
Yep.
Well, here's what I think.
Ask Milo.
I think here's what I think. I mean, I do think in the long term, and I do support nationalization, that these are so ubiquitous and such a major part of how we communicate that fundamentally I want to absorb them under those First Amendment protections for everybody. But in the short term, until that happens, cool. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the scenario right now. So if there's a benefit from eliminating some toxicity in the world we're in, which points to potentially bigger problems, because on the flip side, I think, Facebook having the Atlantic Council monitor their, some of their content is absolutely implicating legitimate outlets that cover Latin America, as an example. So there's big problems there. But if you're going to deplatform, I like these choices.
Yeah,
certainly. I'm not going to shed any tears over Nazis being deplatformed from social media platforms, and whatever is going to happen. Like, people make the argument that, if they can if they can do it to the right, then they can do it to the left.
They can.
Whatever is going to happen to the left is going to happen to the left, independently of what happens to the right. So we got to use all the tools in our toolbox.
And my point, I just want to be clear on what my point is that there's some question as to whether or not deplatforming works. So putting aside the question of whether it's desirable for just a moment, it clearly works, right? Like the idea of, like, because I've heard people in the past who say when you deplatform people,
makes them a martyr.
It makes them a martyr and they become a bigger, but it clearly works. Now, that may be because of the problem that we have with the size of these platforms.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But I'm just saying, I'm just addressing that narrow question that we all have. We now have the time to assess whether deplatforming works or hurts if you are trying to fight back or if you are, hoping for a certain voice to be diminished. And it clearly works.
I also, on a tangent point, imagine being so demented that in a world of like Nelson Mandela and Lula, people like that you call Laura Loomer a martyr.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I just want to shout out myself. Back in December 2016, I said, this is before the book was canceled. I said, I think it'd be hilarious if Milo's book was canceled, and am unafraid of him becoming a martyr as he is largely talentless.
There you go.
I'm very good at predictions.
Yes, Matt Leck ahead
Called
of
it.
the game.
You heard it
Another
here first,
modicum achievements. Prediction tweet modicum for Matt Leck. But here's the bottom line, Ski. Lord Loomer is Jewish.
There's actually an interesting article in Jacobin by Benjamin F.Y. Fong right now called Log Off that sort of wrestles with the idea of whether social media is even a good idea at all in the first place, and whether it should be like nationalized and put under democratic control as we move to a more socialist society, or whether we should all just decide for the good of society to get rid of it.
That seems unlikely to me. I don't know who all, but
it would need to be like statutory. But I think if
worth
like,
exploring as
if
an
a,
idea.
If a law got passed like today that was like Facebook just can't exist, like no breaking up of it, you're just done. This just not existent anymore. I think that everybody would get over it and actually feel pretty happy in like 2 weeks.
Oh,
Life
absolutely.
would, especially if you wanted, if you wanted to narrow it to one platform, world better off without, Facebook would be the easiest, pure net positive.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
all right. So let's get to this. Speaking of people who I wish were deplatformed, I know that's wrong of me and it's completely unclassically liberal. But budding friendship between Tucker Carlson and Dave Rubin, the classical liberals over at Fox. Folks, it's that time again when Republicans have suffered political loss and they turn to the old trusty chestnut around this time of year, the war on Christmas. And who better to talk about the war on Christmas than these two heartland fellows who, the heir to the Swanson fortune, Tucker Carlson, and the Hollywood elite, Dave Rubin, living in Hollywood, maybe not elite, but definitely Hollywood Dave Rubin.
He probably has never lived anywhere else besides California and New York.
The Hollywood
Literally.
mediocre.
Well, and he's one of these performers. But here he is, the Hollywood elite, talking about how Christmas is ruined for everybody, particularly this Jewish guy.
Dave Rubin hosts the Rubin Report on YouTube. And he's a very wise man and joins us. So Dave, as I'm watching that, all of a sudden I had this kind of panic feeling, thinking maybe I fell for an elaborate, ironic prank from HuffPo, and then I realized no, because they don't have a sense of humor. I mean, but reassure me,
Yeah.
this is real, right?
Tucker, very quickly on the last segment, I swear to you, I thought you were the
Now,
highest
pause it.
paid-
We should tell you what they're talking about. They're talking about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as a marginalized character. I don't know if it's tongue-in-cheek. It may or may not be. It harkens back to the multitude of reassessments done by right-wingers of popular cartoons, things like the American Family Research Council saying that A Shark's Tale was, in fact, a gay promotion vehicle. In fact, I called them, and we will dig up that call at one point. But here it is. They're upset about how Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is being reinterpreted.
And I am shocked, and I'm gonna, I don't get paid for these appearances, but I'm going to mail you a check for somewhere between $15 and $20. Okay, that aside,
I appreciate
yes,
that, Dave.
this is, yeah, you got it, my friend. Listen, these puff piece of Huffington Post. I mean, look, these pieces that these authors, whatever they are, journalists that they write, these are not pieces of journalism. It's so much
Pause
easier
it for
to
1 second. What was going on? Was the cameraman messing with Dave Rubin there?
The camera is never, throughout this entire segment, never quite comfortable resting on Dave Rubin.
It
He's
is
like a
very,
big,
very funny, but he's just bouncing up and down. But go ahead.
These puff piece of Huffington Post. I mean, look, these pieces that these authors, whatever they are, journalists, that they write. These are not pieces of journalism. It's so much easier to destroy than to create. If you're watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and think it's about racism and misogyny and the patriarchy and the rest of it, well, you can find that stuff everywhere. If you look back at anything, and that's what people really need to understand when these pieces come out, and then you start looking at something that you used to love or that used to have a wonderful message about the holiday and giving and being accepted and all of those things, that they're trying to take that away from you. And it's not like they stop with one thing, right? They find something, they kind of destroy that, and they'll move on to everything else that we love. So, you know, eventually they'll move on to sitcoms that we love, whether it's Seinfeld for, you know, doing something they've done, or Friends or whatever else it is. They'll go for cartoons. They've gone for Bugs Bunny. I mean, they will literally go for a sunset. Think of whoever's watching this right now, think of something you love that brings you a sense of peace and decency, and they will somehow link it to the patriarchy and the rest of their politically correct nonsense. And we just need to realize that, as I said earlier, it's easier to destroy than create.
Well,
and
that's
what
the
they're
smartest.
just going to keep doing. And I think what we have to do
now
is
pause it for 1 second. All right. So what they're talking about is HuffPost ran a piece. People find some disturbing details in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And someone wrote, every year the elf throws the bird out of the sleigh without an umbrella, even though the bird said it can't fly. Every damn year, someone complained. Somebody else said, one of the great mysteries of modern times, what's wrong with the dolly on the island of misfit toys? Why is she a misfit? I mean, there are other ones. Maybe there's more serious stuff that they're talking about.
Jamie can probably speak to this better than I can, but what economic system incentivizes these sorts of, without even commenting on the validity of this article or whatever, what economic system incentivizes this sort of blogosphere like environment, right? What pitches are accepted? Like, of course, it's...
No, these are just jokes.
Oh,
these are all jokes.
Even if they were going to seriously critique it, though, right? Like,
well, listen. I'll tell you something. First off, the ones on the HuffPost from 2 days ago, they're jokes. Now maybe there's someone that there's something else, but they're mostly jokes as far as I can tell. Like, but
a little bit of self-satire, perhaps. Well, a little self-consciousness on the part of liberals.
Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you something. If anybody has ever watched with any serious look at the Nutcracker, you will see a creepy ass tale of pedophilia. I'm sorry. Now, a lot of you people have no idea what I'm talking about because you've never watched it. I have watched about 12 different versions of the Nutcracker. And I think it was the Seattle one, which almost like openly acknowledges it. You have a creepy old uncle who comes in and gives the young girl a nutcracker and then comes in the middle of the night and takes her to Candyland. Okay? It's a very creepy story. So the idea that you cannot revisit old classics and reassess what's going on. Now, in some of the updated versions of the Nutcracker, they take a lot of that element out. They send him with a kid. The prince is not like they send it, there's another kid, like the assistant instead of like the uncle. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's done to make it less creepy. But there are versions out there where it becomes very explicit.
We should be forced, creepy. We should be forced to do it exactly how it originally was.
Yeah, exactly.
The end of time.
And if you read any of the originals of the fairy tales that we tell our kids, they're creepy. And if you have even slight sensitivity to much of the stories that are told that are considered girls' stories, young girls, right? Like all the princess ones. That up until very recently, when you start getting things like Frozen or whatnot, these stories all have the same basic lesson. Unless you land the really, the prince in shining armor, you are, in some cases, literally dead. Or your life is going to suck. And you get more sensitive to that when you have a daughter and you're starting to look at these things and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe what the message is to this. So in HuffPost, they're going through this and they're pointing out some of this stuff. Perfectly legitimate exercise. And the idea that they're going to come back and reinterpret everything for us. I mean,
well, it seems like what they're getting mad about is not even a reinterpretation. Like the idea.
I think I think HuffPo may have made a video where they go through the whole thing and they see the various different things that are sort of a little bit grotesque.
But like the idea that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is about how you shouldn't treat people differently because they look different from you. That's not a stretch. That's like literally the message contained in the story.
Well, there's a message contained in the story, of course, but you have to be really successful and lucky. And your difference has to actually help productivity and the group dynamic. If it doesn't, of course, you're still completely ostracized, particularly if someone doesn't come down and pluck you out and save you.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair
it's a pretty crap-ass message to send to kids if you were concerned about that. But the idea that this somehow ruins things for us. Like we can, who knows what's next? Are we going to, we have to reinterpret Seinfeld? Oh my gosh.
What next?
What are we going to do? Look back on slavery and think it was wrong? Continue.
And we just need to realize that, as I said earlier, it's easier to destroy than create.
Well,
and
that's
what
the
they're just going to keep doing. And I think what we have to do is create.
That's such a smart point.
Pause it. I don't know if you've ever seen the creation of Dave Rubin's comedy, but if that is just him trying to make the point that it's super difficult to create those things.
Anyone gay in
But
the audience?
First off,
Creation.
the reinterpretation of existing work. I don't want to call Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer art, but the reinterpretation of existing work is in fact a massive portion of all creativity that has existed.
These guys don't even like Pulp Fiction?
Right.
Come on.
Continue.
What are we creating? What is being created in this moment of destruction right now? Do you make me feel better?
Well, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm worried about, because there is some legitimacy that some of the things happening in the country and in the world should be destroyed at some level. Look, we've got major problems in academia. We've got major
we want
problems
some change.
in the media.
I agree.
Now, does he mean the George Mason Economics Department? Is that the
Right.
problem in academia that he's concerned
No,
with?
no. Of course, we know what the problem at academia is, that people are trying to destroy the hegemony of the patriarchy or of misogyny or of everything except for a gay hatred. The destruction of anti-gay sentiment and homophobia, I think Dave would probably be okay with. I think the destruction of the age-old tradition that I'm sure Tucker Carlson was bemoaning being destroyed of marriage between only a man and a woman, I don't think Dave has a problem with that one. It's just the other ones that don't implicate him, which are problematic to have destroyed. Right? That's the issue. But, folks, it is now the war on Christmas. The narrative has been launched. They're trying to do it sideways. I don't know why they can't. They have to destroy the war on Christmas as opposed to try and build on it in the way that they're doing in this way. But because there is a tradition of the war on Christmas, we will continue our tradition here at the Majority Report. Every year during this time, I thought it would actually be a little bit longer, but it's not. But we will play the War on Christmas YouTube moment where I got invited onto CNN. We have that pulled. Here it is. This is a 10-minute thing?
Is there a specific moment in here you want?
Oh, well, we'll play just the first beginning of it, and then we'll post the whole video because it is long. But at one point, I was contemplating, and this was, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe? I don't know, 13 years ago. I was thinking, like, I would love to go on Fox News as the War on Christmas. And maybe what I need to do is set up, and this is back when you could really hoodwink people online, set up a fake organization and have them bring me on to talk about the War on Christmas and do some variant of what I did here. But that never came to fruition because at one point I got a call from CNN. This is when I was a host on Air America, will you come debate the head of Concerned Women of America, of course, a man named Bob Knight, on the question of the war on Christmas. And this worked out very well. We're just going to play the first 2 minutes, but I will tell you this. Originally, the host threw to Bob Knight, or maybe just before we went on air, they said Bob's hearing he can't hear, so we're going to have to come to you first, Sam. And this destroyed it for Bob Knight, because it's one thing for me to come in with my attempt to undercut his point, but to set the premise of the piece, by the time he gets to open his mouth for the first time, anything he says is going to sound ridiculous. But here it is. This is, I take you to what I think was maybe my favorite moment on TV.
Christmas or happy holidays, a Christmas tree or a holiday tree? Which should it be? Depends on whom you ask. We've seen controversy, most notably prompted by the White House. It sent out cards, this card matter of fact, wishing a holiday season of hope and happiness. No mention of Christmas. Some thoughts now on the subject.
Pause it now. I just want to tell you this is during the Bush years, and the idea that the Bushes would send out something saying Happy Holiday, that was very problematic. But
Peter hosts the show Majority Report on Air America Radio. Bob Knight is the director of the Culture and Family Institute. It's affiliated with the Christian conservative organization Concerned Women for America. Gentlemen, great to have you with me.
Thanks for having us on.
All right, well, let's start with the holiday card. What do you think, Sam?
Well, listen, as far as the war on Christmas goes, I feel like we should be waging a war on Christmas. I mean, I believe that Christmas, it's almost proven that Christmas has nuclear weapons, can be an imminent threat to this country, that they have operative ties with terrorists, and I believe that we should sacrifice thousands of American lives in pursuit of this war on Christmas. And hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money.
Well, Sam, is it a war on Christmas, a war on Christians, a war on over political correctness, or just a lot of people with way too much time on their hands?
Well, I would say probably, if I was to be serious about it, too much time on their hands. But I'd like to get back to the operational ties between Santa Claus and Al-Qaeda.
I don't think that exists. Bob?
Well, we have
Help
intelligence.
me out here.
We have intelligence.
You have intel. And where exactly does your intel come from?
Well, we have tortured an elf, and that's it's actually how we got the same information from al-Libi. It's exactly the same way the Bush administration got this info about the operational ties between Al-Qaeda and Saddam.
Okay, Bob Knight. Sam is tying in now the lack of information regarding weapons of mass destruction and somehow moving that into Santa Claus. Help me out here. What's going on? I mean, is this a war on Christians, a war on Christmas? Is this too much political correctness?
Yeah, well, it was first I want to compliment him on his dry humor, but this is actually a very serious subject, because a lot of people are waking up to realize that the war on Christmas is really the culmination of a war on faith, and the idea that the public square has to be cleansed of any religious expression, particularly Christian religious expression. At one time, Happy Holidays was a welcome addition to Merry Christmas, so you wouldn't say the same thing over and over again, but a lot of people now see it as a substitute, and it's very gratuitous at times, and it's actually insulting when you're talking about Christmas Day or a Christmas tree, and you can't bring yourself to use the word for fear of offending someone. In the name of diversity, we're a less free country.
Yes, and then it goes on from there. I can assure you that it gets a little bit more heated. Because what happened is the segment was supposed to be only 3 minutes, but she let me talk at the beginning, and then I think what they did is they said, we're going to keep doing this because this is...
Until he evens it out or something
Well,
like that?
no, he started talking, and now I start going in on him, and I start going, saying, like, just sort of the obvious stuff that you would say, like, where in America can you not be is there no Christmas? And it gets more fun from there. But it is a Christmas tradition.
It's like, Lord, they gave me a sarcastic Jew who disrespects our troops and president.
But we will play the entire video, and as part of our Christmas tradition. Let's go to the phones. Calling from an 818 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, it's Dave from Jamaica.
Dave from Jamaica. What's on your mind, Dave?
Nothing too much. About that that situation with the deplatforming, which I generally agree seems to be effective, at least against the most egregious right wingers. But how do you deal with that type of crazy? Because I mean, outside of just ignoring it, I guess I'm shocked that somebody like Laura Loomer got as high as she did in this media environment.
Look, there's a
Is
lot
there
of
any
there's a
real way
lot
to
of
combat it?
Well, I mean, I think look, deplatforming helps, but I will say that you also need to be conscious of what's going on. For a long time, I mean, Rush Limbaugh was not deplatformed. I mean, he obviously had large access. He was ignored.
No, I mean, Alex Jones.
But Alex Jones, I mean, well, either one. I mean, look, deplatforming helps. The less people who can hear the crazy, the better, because it doesn't seep into the sort of the mainstream discourse. And if it was, it would had to based on its merits as opposed to it just being amplified. So I don't know that there's much you can do. Crazy people exist, and I'm not, people who believe all sorts of different things exist, and that's going to happen. But by deplatforming, you take out the financial value of it. And for a lot of these people, right? Like, for instance, Gavin McInnes, if there was not a buck to be made in being what he has become, I can assure you he would not be that. And so the deplatforming is helpful in that respect. So,
I mean, you also are denying them a community, right? Like, ContraPoints made a pretty good case. I forget if it was in one of her videos or on a podcast that the incel community has really ballooned since the internet, because before maybe there were these like angry guys sitting in their basement thinking these thoughts that they couldn't express, and then they got together and it became something very toxic, and it snowballed in a way sort of analogous to like the pro anorexia communities for young girls.
Yeah, people should note the sameness or etymological link between culture and cultivation, and these things sort of develop organically like that.
Yeah, I mean, we see this across, for better and for worse, right? That the internet has allowed people to traverse geographic, one of the things about New York City that used to make it interesting, it's less so, is that the density of people means that you can have all sorts of different types of outlets for those people that can coexist. Now it's too expensive for that to happen, but it used to be that, like, you could find any type of product. This is pre-Amazon. Like, the place to look for something would be New York, because there's so many people in such a small area that it could support a shop that just sells whatever, some, very obscure item. The internet has that same effect, that obscure, issue sets or shared beliefs or whatnot can now you don't have to traverse. There's no bar to entry, and so people find each other and they build a community for better or for worse. And deplatforming, I think, is helpful in that respect. In that,
No, I agree with deplatforming generally, but I guess to bring it to a finer point, I was thinking more like from my own personal anecdotal experiences. It seems people are more willing to believe stuff that's kind of nutty. That, I hate to say facts and logic, but facts and logic are not very sexy. Or doubt, or I'm not sure.
I think people are willing to believe what provides them with the easiest answer for something, and the one that reinforces their pre-existing priors, and that is sort of pre-digested, and maybe in some ways, puts them inside a drama, and I think that's always going to be the case. The question is like, when you have stuff that's mediated, theoretically, what's supposed to happen is enough skeptics are aware of it and keep it from blossoming. But what happens in the context of the right is there's so much money sloshing around that stuff, becomes, look, not many people watch Gavin McInnes on CRTV.
Right.
Very few people know who Mark Stein is, even in the right wing. And that guy settled with CRTV for $4 million. Someone is pumping in an enormous amount of money into the right wing media entertainment complex that they do not care about getting back in any fashion. And what it's doing is it's elevating people. And when then when you go into a social media platform already having been artificially inflated, it helps. I mean, Dave Rubin, you take away the hundreds of thousands of dollars that Dave Rubin, or tens of thousands of dollars, whatever money came in from ideological money that came in, big money, and helped inflate him, got him over the hump and helped his platform grow. And then it was just like, oh, we're going to keep having the same five guys on, and they're subsidized, I'm subsidized, and soon, we will get past the, sort of the startup costs of these type of businesses. I mean, it helps to have a platform to launch your show from. And either that platform can be built organically, even this platform wasn't built totally organically. I didn't have any money invested, but I did have an email list from when I was on Air America. And from that, we can launch shows out of this show. But if in the absence of that, someone comes in and gives me $200,000 on day one, I got news for you. My YouTube channel is twice the size that it is today. And so that's the way that this works. There's a lot of money over there. I don't know that people are any more or less susceptible to believing nonsense, but appreciate the call.
Those are both such important points. And I think a lot of the time people want to look at it very myopically and say, oh, we need a level playing field. We need a platform that everyone has equal access to. But you're not starting with a level playing field because of everything you just said. The market greatly determines who has speech and who has access, as well as just people's natural inclination to go for the simpler, easier explanations for things. Like they say that anti-Semitism is socialism for idiots. And I think that's true to some degree. So deplatforming, fine.
Anti-Semitism is common sense for non-cocks.
Folks,
but we must defend
who's really excited about the work he did on inhibiting climate change? Barack Obama. But apparently he's also super, super excited about the work he did that didn't inhibit climate change. Here is Barack Obama talking about the recent boom in U.S. oil production. Right after he praises the Paris Climate Accords, he then takes credit for, the continuance of all the things that the Paris Climate Accords are supposed to fight against.
Call me both ways, Barry.
There we go. Here he is, Barack Obama. Here's the thing, too. I think what happens to former presidents, and, having watched now 4 or 5 of them, they think they still have the political acumen that they had that got them into the presidency. They do not realize that they have been living cloistered lives and have no sense of that. So they have the same level of cockiness and self-confidence that that things are going to work out for them, but they forget to calibrate what they're saying. And they end up saying things like this that are more revealing than they probably want them to be.
I was extraordinarily proud of the Paris Accords because, look, I know, I know we're an oil country, and we need American energy, and by the way, American energy production. You wouldn't always know it, but it went up every year I was president, and that whole. Suddenly, America's like the biggest oil producer and the biggest that was me, people. I just want you to. It's a little like, you know, sometimes you go to Wall Street and folks will be grumbling about anti-business. I said, have you checked where your stocks were when I came into office and where they are now? What are you talking? What are you complaining about? Just say thank you, please. Because I want to raise your taxes a couple percent.
I mean, you know, here's the problem is that he's working on his legacy in the creepiest of ways. And what's problematic about that is, well, there's two things. One is it's a good reminder for the failures of the Obama administration. Two, it's a good reminder about how someone who ostensibly thinks they're trying to do good is so cowed by these forces, these big moneyed forces. Three, it's problematic insofar as, like, you know, what is the message he's sending to Democrats, to people who are center left? I care about climate change, and I'm proud of the fact that I made America #1 again in oil production.
There is on a single like Jerry Brown is more serious on this in terms of any like executive in the United States, including Obama. And he drills and does natural gas because none of them have any plan for supply side. Like, they will do stuff on energy, they will cut it, and those are important things, but not a single American. And I just think as long as you have a fossil fuel company-driven political process, you're never going to have that
now, here's
in
the
politics.
Thing. It's one thing for Obama to say, this happened on my watch. Right. And we don't have a system, and we are this is a lack. This is it's the truth.
A problem to be solved.
I want to set the record straight. But I got to make sure that I contextualize it in a way that still says the agenda is to end climate change or to mitigate it in some fashion. And so he could have communicated that same thing, that same factual information, but said, and look, it's a problem. And it's a problem, and that happened despite the fact that I didn't want it to, or that I know that it's wrong, or whatever. You know, then at least from a messaging standpoint, you know, you're better.
You want a message? I don't cause global warming. White people cause global warming. How about that? You're welcome, Jacobs. Stock market up.
Not to mention, what's the message he's sending to people who don't own any stocks and who think the 1% should have their taxes raised by more than a few percentage points and are very angry about that?
Exactly. I mean, he's not even, but it's even worse with a message of people who don't have that understanding, right? Because he's giving the okay to the entire Democratic Party to continue along that trajectory. And we know if we continue along that trajectory where we keep pulling fossil fuels out of the ground, that we are in serious shitty shape. Not to mention, we also know if we continue to give carte blanche to Wall Street, we're going to end up with another economic crisis, and we're going to be right back where we were in 2008. And we're still in a diminished capacity from them. So this is all very problematic, more so for the people who don't know that it's problematic.
All right, stipulate that. Sell your house if it goes underwater.
You really think you're not going to sell your house?
You know what socialism's for? White people want to pretend they're not the devil.
What are you complaining about? Just say thank you, please.
Allah Akbar.
Thank you, please. Lastly, yesterday seemed like the day, like today we have clips where it just seems like our exiting or exited political leaders are really trying to make it clear exactly who they are and have been. Here is Paul Ryan sporting a couple of days worth of growth that tell us he's on his way out. He knows that he's no longer the guy, but he's going to remind us that, you know, I was an idiot. And then I was considered someone who was under the gun. I had to act like an idiot because I'm surrounded by idiots and my political fortunes are constrained by idiots. The idiot in the White House, the idiots in my caucus. But now look at my beard. I'm free. What I say now is in my heart, and I'm going to adopt the exact same conspiratorial frame as all the idiots who I pretended were the idiots who were forcing me to act like an idiot before have done.
In California, it just defies logic to me. We had a lot of wins that night. We were only down 26 seats the night of the election. And 3 weeks later, we lost basically every contested California race. This election system they have, I can't begin to understand what ballot harvesting is. But so I think California.
Do you think there's something wrong with it?
No, I just think it's weird. I mean, in Wisconsin, you know, we knew like the next day. You know, Scott Walker, my friend, I was sad to see him lose, but we accepted the results on Wednesday. You know, so. You know, I think we had California, their system is bizarre. I still don't frankly understand it. There are a lot of races there we should have won, and we got massively outspent. I mean, big time outspent.
All right, pause it for 1 second. Before we get to him crying about how the Republicans got outspent by the massive fundraising, small donor fundraising that existed on the Democratic side. There was a lot of big money too, but guess what? The Republicans got big money as well. They got outspent because people wanted them booted out. It was the largest midterm victory in terms of votes in the history of midterms. And something funny going on. It's all red flaggy over there in California.
I don't understand it, but what's that ballot harvesting? I'm not going to talk about it, but anyway.
I'm just going to drop a ballot harvesting. What does that mean?
I'm going to give you the search term that you can go to find yourself in the part of the internet that's going to tell you exactly what we need you to know.
Yeah, let's see what ballot harvesting gets you on the internet. Let's see. Ballot harvesting. What was Paul Ryan talking about? Well, it's all now Paul Ryan, but let's do it. We'll do it. Let's see. Custom range. We'll go in. Let's do it the day before he said that. How's that? And then it's like, let's see. Would you give your ballot to a stranger? No, nothing. There's no word to that. Oh, here it is. Red state. This is in October. California Democratic Party sinking to new lows to harvest absentee ballots. In November 13th, there is ballot harvesting going in Sutter County.
They just grow them in the fields?
No, it's basically Montana could ban ballot harvesting.
Here's a funny September headline from Arizona Capital Times. Ninth Circuit upholds ballot harvesting, quote, that's a quote, ban, calling the... this got blocked.
What is ballot harvesting supposed to be?
Calling the lack of evidence of fraud irrelevant, a divided federal appeals court on Wednesday upheld Arizona's ban on, quote, ballot harvesting. Let's see.
I think it's basically going around and helping collect people's ballots so that they will send their absentee ballots out.
Black ballot, check. White ballot, ooh, can't make that one out. Throw it out. That's a little thing called
Let's
vote
listen
harvesting.
to him now whine about money. Of all people to whine about money in elections, this guy, his whole career has been based upon Koch's money, giving him money.
Stand it. There are a lot of races there we should have won, and we got massively outspent. I mean, big time outspent. You got a couple of billionaires dropping $100 million on your head. And that leaves a mark. And so we got massively outspent. We had midterm headwinds, which are traditional things. And we do have to face up that there's a suburban voter issue that we have to attend to, which was what our concern was all along.
Yeah. In other words, let's get to the legit reason at the end. People hate Republicans now. And then now that we have all the other ones that are out there that will get the traction on Breitbart. That's what we've done. We've been able to do that.
You're just not into billionaires having a disproportionate influence in the political process.
I know. I'm such a ninny that way. All right. It's almost 3:00. We got time for one more phone call. I'm sorry, folks. I really apologize. We've had people hanging on for a long time. Plenty of folks for over an hour. Calling from a 647 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 647.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam. This is James.
James, where are you calling from?
From Toronto.
James from Toronto. What's on your mind?
First of all, I just wanted to say how much I enjoy what you guys do. I really look up to you guys. I'm actually at work right now, so I've got about 8 minutes before I have to go to a meeting. But I wanted to tell you about some stuff I've been doing. I've been calling into a conservative radio station and arguing with them about immigration. They're very concerned about the caravan over there.
In Canada, they're concerned about the caravan?
Actually, well, the radio station's in Michigan.
Oh, well, in Michigan, that makes a lot more sense.
I bet the Ford is.
They're
I
on
bet
Facebook.
Ford is, right?
Yeah. So, but none of the people that I listen to are very concerned about the caravan, obviously. So it's been very hard for me to get any ammunition rhetorically.
Okay.
To give them any facts. So I was wondering if you have any advice on where I can look for that kind of information.
What kind of information you're looking for? I mean, I'm not clear.
Well, I don't know. I mean, okay. Well, look, I'm from Canada. I don't really know that much about the caravan. I Google the caravan and I get Fox News stories. I get, CNN or something. But they're not really digging it. They're not really telling me who these people are. What the
there was an Al Jazeera story that I read the other day about I think the title of it was U.S. causing crisis at Mexican border. I think that's a good place to start. And I would, I think that's as good a place as any to start. And that's, just got to Google around. But I don't, I can't, when I look for stories, I Google, and that's it. Sometimes maybe I use Bing. Google.
Okay, thanks.
Google.
And I wanted to run an idea, but I wanted to run an idea by you guys and by the callers into your show for a bit of praxis. What if en masse progressives started calling into these conservative radio stations and arguing with these people and getting messages out onto the
all right, James, let me
airwaves that way.
It's an interesting idea. Thanks for the call. A while back, there was a guy named Mike Stark who tried to set up a website called Calling All Wingnuts, and we've played his stuff over the years. He would call into Hannity's show and to Limbaugh's show. He's very good at it and tried to get people to do it and almost give them a training course on how to do it. I think there would be value to it without a doubt. But this is the type of thing that if you had a billionaire, a millionaire giving operational money to people like me, that we would start. We would be just disseminating cash, because there's no doubt in my mind that we had callers who were calling into our show who were paid back when we were on Air America. I don't think that happens now, but I think there are paid trolls. Certainly. I mean, we know that in the context of bots or whatever. I mean, the concept is out there. It's not a particularly unique thing. I don't know that you would do it the same way on the left as they do it on the right, but, money makes a difference in these endeavors. So.
And props for doing it on company time. That's good practice.
That's very good. That's best practices. All right, folks, going to go through some IMs, and then we're going to get going here. VSPA, the GOP specifically raised taxes on wealthy blue state homeowners, then lost seats in those states, and Ryan is surprised. Seriously? I love Sarah Palin. Sam, I'm anti-Trump like you guys, but he has a point sometimes. Snitching should be illegal. The government has put away a lot of good people, based on real criminals lying to reduce their time, like John Gotti, who was a union leader, who Jamie should stand up for, Vincent the Chin Gigante, who was clearly mentally ill man from the government made to look like a mafia godfather. Free Takashi, by the way. Another thing is global warming. Expert gets things wrong all the time. Remember in 1990, all the experts said Mike Tyson would beat Buster Douglas. So pump the brakes a little bit, Sam.
That's an amazing IM.
Madison, do you guys no longer have the 2016 primary and presidential debate reactions on YouTube? I think we do. I don't know why we wouldn't. The DX Full, hello Bolsheviks. Reminder that the war on Christmas began with the start of the advent of Hanukkah, both falling on Sunday. Two-part question, mostly for Jamie. As a contributor to The Guardian, what do you think about Glenn Greenwald's criticism of the Paul Manafort article? And how does that fellow contributor Chelsea Manning view WikiLeaks these days? Jamie does not
really
spend a
up
lot
to
of time at the
speed.
office at The Guardian, do you?
I do not. I'm a freelancer, occasional freelancer. Yeah, I'm not really up to speed on those things. Sorry.
In general, for those kind of questions, though, like all of us know everybody in media, and we know everything they think, do, and say, and we have.
It's better to ask those questions on the next day after we've seen them at the commissary.
Exactly, but we're in constant communication with pretty much anybody.
The Guardian, it was the Luke, whose story Luke from The Guardian on Trump that turned out to be a bit dubious. They've changed some of the sourcing on
the one about Manafort visiting Assange.
Question.
Yeah.
The last thing at The Guardian that I paid attention to that was controversial was when they published that really bad take from I guess I'd call her a trans exclusionary radical feminist. It was bad stuff. I said it was bad stuff. People were tweeting at me like I had any control over it, which, spoiler alert, I don't.
But you knew it was happening like months before because it's just how things work.
Yeah, you edited it.
Yeah, you edited it even though you
comments.
disagree with it because we edit and see everything.
Brother from Brooklyn, conservatives are right. The real victims in society aren't black men who are brutalized by police. The real victims are people like Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer who get banned from Oberlin for making snarky points about gender. Also, facts don't care about your feelings unless you criticize Israel. Classical conservative. According to the Nation's article on the Pentagon audit, there's at least $22 trillion of transactions between 98 and 2015 that cannot be traced. Yeah, it's nuts. I interviewed the author of that piece on Ring of Fire this weekend. Drill. Michigan citizens earlier this year gathered signatures to get a minimum wage raise and paid sick leave on the ballot initiative. The GOP-controlled state legislature passed the bill doing exactly what the ballot initiative would have done, which made it so a minimum wage rise and paid sick leave would no longer be on the ballot. Now, in the lame duck session, the Senate is overwhelmingly passed the bill to scale back all of it. Yes, horrible. Wisconsin may do the same thing. We'll talk about that on Monday. JJ Cool, Sam, hasn't the Trump era taught you anything? You don't spend time searching for context when discussing Republican suicide. You double down. Sean, hey, Michael, I think Uber in Nazi Germany was a little different. Don't I have that on here?
That's good.
I used to have.
The Ubers ran on time.
I had that that song on my
Deutschland.
Uber Alles. I presume that's what it was. The Grateful Dead of podcast. Hey, Sam, I hope you enjoyed your birth Mike Cernovich day this week. Who's laughing now, Sam? Embroidered Brooklyn and sheets and times becoming delayed alarm clock I sent you as a present. Would really appreciate it if you could try to get a guest to speak about foreign policy from a much more leftist, progressive view. Yeah, we're looking into that. Your point about Stephen Walt is well taken, and we talked about that after he came on. Your bear trap. Is Loomer still there? Someone should go and read those awful tweets of hers out loud while she's there. Oh, that would be actually pretty good.
Absolutely.
Train boy, Sam Seder, go on Cumtown. I have not been invited, but I'm certainly open to it. Lewis 77, Laura Loomer is a botched Lauren Southern clone. In other news, Deliverance and Last House on the Left were double bills at the drive-in for my parents' first date. True story. Willick, Sam, did you ever see Baked Alaska's music video, Trump is My President? I'm pretty sure. Producer Lauren,
really
I thought the premier Semitic Nazi was Pam Geller. Anyways, I saw that Laura Loomer defended Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire, still refers to Caitlyn Jenner and Chelsea Manning as Mr. He's a great guy. Attorney Andrew wanted to signal boost new piece at the People's Policy Project regarding the effects of instituting a child allowance policy where each family receive $300 a month for every child they have. Findings show that such policy would pull 5 million plus adults out of poverty and would virtually eliminate extreme poverty.
It's a great policy.
Also with Green New Deal talk, wanted to also re-raise a 3P policy of carbon tax and dividend scheme where $2.30 per ton of CO2 tax implement and revenue used to create a dividend of $2,200 per person
It's
in the
a
US.
commons model instead of a trading model. It's great.
A Square, Feliz Cumpleaños Samuelito Siderio.
Oh, my God.
Sendero. What?
Feliz cumpleaños.
Okay, thank you. There you go. Jez Gargelet, he said Samuelito Sender. So Jez Gargelet is saying from the river to the sea, always implying destruction of the state of Israel as a Jewish state. I mean, I think I don't know, but certainly Hamas uses it in that respect.
But even even Hamas has revised their policy. I mean, look, the sentiment and his whole history is calling for a full binational democracy with rights and security for all, which is a totally valid position. And the idea that he would get fired over that, I'm not saying you couldn't say, hey, you know, Mark, your sentiment's perfectly valid, but are you aware of the formulation and take him up on it? But losing a job over that, insane.
It's either they wanted to get rid of him for other reasons, or they're setting a very, very, very bad precedent.
When it comes to that, we know what it is.
Grown Up Rock. I believe in civility and grabbing beers with those you disagree with, but I'm going to whop Joy Behar upside the head. Bullprog. Marcy Wheeler was on the most recent episode of Wait, Wait, Don't Save America. That's a great title. And the final I am of the day. Prominent progressives and even some libertarians constantly talk about the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, but not one of them mentions the real humanitarian tragedy that's gone on since Obama was elected his first term. I'm, of course, talking about the war on Christmas. It has gotten so pervasive that even my own mother sent me a menorah this year. We happen to be Jewish, but that won't stop me from praying Santa Claus to save the children and make sure they continue to enjoy rampant consumerism, as Jesus clearly stated in the Bible. See you Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. The months drifted into years while I